Dun, 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 dun,
Da-da-da.
dun, 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 dun. All right.
All right, that's
All
enough.
the
That's
people
enough.
that don't believe, all the people that don't believe that I actually do dance with my dash during the opening music, I have
He does.
witnesses every week that
He
can
does.
prove that yes, in fact, I am back here dancing with the dash as I am waiting for the 30 seconds to finally wrap up and so on. So yes, I am doing that. Hi, Simon.
Hey,
Greetings.
how's it going? It's been like a week. Oh no, 2 weeks.
It's
What was that?
2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks plus a half hour.
Oh yeah, indeed. Daylight
And
savings. Welcome.
yeah,
Welcome.
so DST ends in different weeks for the US and for the rest of Northern Hemisphere. And we are in that straddle week where we on this side of the puddle are still in DST until next Saturday. And y'all, the rest of the world, rest of the Northern Hemisphere, I should say, because
What
that's the
happens
one people
is
that have been.
is this entire week is madness for meetings that includes anyone in America for us. It's
Yeah,
always like,
yeah.
I didn't realize I'm going to be an hour before, an hour afterwards. So
Yeah, it's really a mess, and it's like, please, let's just get rid of DST, please. But that probably won't ever
I'll be
happen.
honest with you. I'm still one for just everyone just goes with one time zone, UTC, and it just so happens then you're just all talking about like because everything's global now, right? So whatever it is, I mean, like your 4 a.m. might be when you get up in the morning, right? And you go to bed at like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I feel like a time of day is just a point on the clock that is like absolute for everyone. I don't know if you know.
I can tell you as a pilot, I got very used to that because everything is done in UTC entirely, and so you have to schedule things based on 4 a.m. Zulu we call it because that's the name of the time zone in military time. And so everything is this Zulu or that Zulu in terms of all your scheduling. And that makes a lot of sense, especially when, you don't want to have to know the local customs before you land your plane. And if we
Is this
ever go to this, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, is this similar to like what America calls military time, or we call normal time, right? We use 24-hour clock, right? So 1600 is
More
like
than that,
5 p.m.,
more
right?
than that. I mean, it's Zulu time is always UTC
Oh
zero.
no, what I'm trying to say is it's a similar concept. Like it's really hard for people to get to use military. Like people in America, their day to day will just not. Do more people now use 24-hour clock? I'm wondering in America, is that no?
No, we're still AM PM people. We even
All right.
have a store called AMPM, the 24-hour store. So yeah,
Joke very funny is if the clocks did change, they'd be like, why do we call ourselves now? Anyway,
yeah.
right.
MM, just MM. We're always
I can,
there. I'm in M&M's eatings all
let's go.
day. Yes, we should probably start the show. So
Yeah.
let's
Let's
have.
start the show, and let's
I'll be
and we
virtual
yeah,
Scott reading the story
we'll
again
go from there.
as
Right.
often.
Okay, cool.
Push
Let's
the
do that.
button. Push the button. So this is the important ground rules for this slightly offset show. The rules still apply, even though we're a half hour late getting started, or a half hour early, depending on where you're at. So here I go. I'm already giddy. Be nice, be respectful, be constructive, interact nicely, be treated like you treat other people like you would like to be treated. Don't post any adult content. No rude, no offensive statements. We do have ban hammers here, so we can take you out of the chat if you start getting that way. Do not advertise or promote anything. The only people who can promote stuff are people that have their face on the camera. Everybody else, go get your own show.
If you
Don't
do,
spam.
to be
Sorry.
clear, if you do post a link in your question, the question won't come through. So don't post any links
Right.
in any of your stuff. We won't see any
We
of
don't
it.
we don't even see that. Yes, exactly. Don't spam. If you post the same thing again and again, we will use the ban hammer on that. Also, if you're posting a question and then post the same question later, you come out of the queue on the first question and into the queue on the later version of that, and you just lost your place in line. So don't do that. No harassment is tolerated at all. We will again immediately take action based on that. But do have a good time. We have a fun time doing this show. That's why we do it week after week. And we expect you to also help us have a fun time by having a fun time yourself. There we go. That's probably as
That's
best as
exactly.
I can say that. So I think we're done with that. So
Let's do some
who are
brief
we?
introductions, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader and CTO at Dev Angels London. You can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. We also have Mastodon accounts and various other things. You just find us on social media. I'm sure you'll find us somewhere.
Yeah.
Randall.
I am Randall Schwartz. I have been a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert since the very beginning of that terminology for Dart and Flutter. So that's a little over 5 years now. I am also which means also I spend most of my day answering questions on things like Discord and Stack Overflow and Reddit and stuff about Dart and Flutter. You'll find me everywhere in all the socials. That's part of my job. And for this show, I am the question magician, which means I am watching the chat for people to put Q colon in front of a statement. And then I know that that is for us to add to our queue of questions. There we go with the bad pun every week. So there we go. So that's what I'll be doing today.
And I'd like to welcome to the stage Danielle. Danielle, welcome.
Hey there, everybody. Yeah, I'm Danielle Cox. I am I'm the Flutter lead for actually I guess I'm the app lead, the front end app lead, whatever, for a company called Ardley, and so that's always fun. I lead a small team of Flutter developers, and that's really cool. But I actually also, it's especially proud like this time of year that I'm one of the organizers of the Flutteristas. And why that's a big deal. By the way, Flutteristas are a group of female and non-binary Flutter enthusiasts. And what we try to do every now and then to help us kind of get practice doing this is we throw a little conference. And so we have our conference coming up in just a couple of weeks on November 11th. So it's online, it's worldwide. But why that's important is the fact that we actually run a 12-hour conference so that everybody in the world should be able to find a time that's convenient for them to pop in and see part of it live. You don't have to wait and watch it on the video. You can actually see it live when it's happening. You know, get your questions in for the Q&A, participate in activities. And it's exciting. I get to be behind the scenes watching what else happening. I'm hosting a third of it. So that's always really cool. And so, yeah, so I wanted to kind of bring that up and invite you all to come. So while it is, you know, Flutteristas are putting it on, or we're the on-screen talent for this. We definitely have support from the community, things like that. So that to me is a very exciting thing, and I'm very proud to be able to announce that. And thanks to the Flutter community for all of your help. It's going to happen, by the way. It's going to be on the Flutter community's YouTube channel. Behind the scenes,
Right,
we've
yeah.
got right here, and behind the scenes we have Flutter community people actually helping make sure things run smoothly, and yeah, so it's a very wonderful thing. And I invite you all to come. I've seen rehearsals for some of the talks, and yeah, it's going to be good. So
Cool.
And we have no Scott today. We should probably mention that.
Yeah, no Scott.
No Scott. You might have figured it out by now since you haven't seen Scott yet. So yeah, no, we're hiding him for the special part of the show.
Yeah, here's the dirty secret. If we have to be gone to make money, because we're not getting paid for this, if we have to be gone to make money, we're gone making money. You know, if we work around, we try to be here.
True.
Yeah.
You know, true.
Try. I mean, like, to be honest, I think it makes, from my previous experience doing the meetup stuff, it makes a difference having the show at the same time, same way. It also helps for scheduling and everything else. But sometimes, you know, something collides. It's just not possible to cancel something or to change something around. But we try and keep it same time, same every week, and that way it's good for everyone.
Right. Like what was last week? What was happening last week that we didn't do the show?
Right.
I had DroidCon London, and Scott could make it. I think someone else, John, Danielle, you could make it. It basically ended up being like, I think Randall, you'd been on your own on the show. I was like, okay, well then we'll just cancel it. Like,
yeah, really.
Yeah,
I can't hold the show down.
I was about to type to say, you know, hey, I'll be there if I absolutely have to, but I'm getting slammed. I'd rather not be if I could skip this week. And about that time, we're saying we may not have it. I'm like, fine with me.
Yeah.
Not my fault.
Good timing.
So yeah,
would you like to come back though? I'm glad we're having today's show, even though it's maybe getting off to a rough start with the time changes and stuff. But that's okay. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
we can still answer questions. We have questions actually in the queue already too, so we could actually go to a couple of those.
I was. Oh yeah, I got to see what Craig said. Craig, do you want to come on the show? You're welcome to come on the show if you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you should come on. Talk about the weekly release schedule apparently of Flutter, which is probably about to drop any moment now.
Speaking of this, like Craig is right, but it's not just anything. Like I think I feel pretty good at 14 is 2:00, but I don't know, 15, 18, those for some reason 15 feels like it's 5 and 18 feels like it's 8. You know, and
I think there's like I think it's more of a case of just having it like when you're with a like speaking a foreign language in a foreign country, you get used to it after a while, right? It becomes second nature. I think it's that kind of thing, right? It's foreign for people at the beginning. It's the same as like I think in the UK that was it 70s, I think it was, when the money system changed, or was it around that time when our money system changed to pounds and pence instead of shillings or whatever, right? And shillings and crowns and all that. It's like the metrification of it. And just like, obviously people were really confused with what money to use where at the time, but then, now it's become standard, right? So I feel like there's probably, I mean, there's always going to have those two there's two groups of people, right? The group that's always against, the group that's for, and it's like, yeah.
Well, and by the way, also to argue against Craig's point of us being too dumb, we are the ones that still have nickels and dimes and quarters. I guess dimes would make sense. Yeah. We still have miles. We still have gallons. We have acres. We have whatever. So we're not using metric.
We don't use kilometers here. We use miles in the UK, right? And but we measure houses and like internal measurements by meters. Like feet have gone out now, but it's taken a while for like things to change for different industries to change to a different sort of system. And I think the road system is going to be the final one to fall because I don't think the government wants to spend the money on like changing all the road signs.
Okay. Craig makes a good point. He doesn't like my point of we're not that we're smart because we can use the all the gallons and miles and whatever, but he made the point we're bad at those too. So
yeah. Well, there is that section of interstate highway south of.
I don't want Craig to think I'm looking this up. It's 46,530 square feet.
What was an acre? Yeah.
An acre, right?
I mean, you work, Craig. I have to tell you this. You work for a company that should know this.
Yeah,
they know the knowledge of all these things.
Yeah, or at least have a way of finding them.
Right, exactly, right.
He works for a company that can find things.
They make the tool that does that, right?
Right.
It's interesting. I've got a good question for you guys. Just while the show's getting started here, while we wait for questions to come in. Do you guys find yourselves using words like instead of wheeling on your chair? I had myself several times say scroll. So scroll over here. Like, have you ever used the wrong terminology? Like,
sure, ever? Yeah.
For that kind of, I don't know, like maybe not that one specifically.
Yeah, no, of course it does. Yeah.
I know I've done things. I've used computer terminology to describe something in real life. Ping me is one of my favorites.
Ping me. I always use that one. Yep. I always Google that, right? Or just like you just mean Google as in search.
Right.
Like the term, not specifically use Google, but just Google as in a phrase that means search, right?
For a while, I used vgrep when I meant visual grep. Look for something.
Yeah.
So
let me just grep that, and that uses me find that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Well, I mean, let's just start with some questions, I guess.
We do. We've got some questions. Do you want me to read them to you, or are you going to be?
Let's.
I can manage it. Yeah. This is related only to the conversation we've just been having, which is how do you unravel DST? I tell you, my history with DST and with time zones in general is that I've been on the mailing list for decades now for the TZ data people. So this is the group in the IANA that actually owns the time zone database that everybody agrees is the official time zone database. And so I've seen so much in terms of political wranglings and arguments and stuff. Oh man. And countries revealing they're making a DST change the day before they make the change. I mean, literally no computer in the world is going to have the right time for an hour on that day just because of that.
I was going to say, I'm waiting for the day when they go, let's blockchain it all. So then we have so then we have to have 50% of everyone agree to whatever the change goes in. And watch a country not get their DST changing because no one agrees to it.
Yeah, and then people not understanding how the database works. This is, if you've ever seen a time zone picker that looks like America/Los Angeles, that name is from this database. So the thing is, Los Angeles is the only city in the Western U.S. Time zone, in the Pacific time zone. And so it's like, well, why isn't Seattle in there? Why isn't, right? It's not meant to be a comprehensive list of all the cities that are in that time zone. So it's the arguments that go back and forth. People are like, oh,
you just reminded me of something. Let's see if I can. I'm going to see if I can find this. There was a time. Do you remember that was it. That was it.
Right.
See if I can bring this up. See if I can get a better picture. Hang on. In the very early versions of Windows, there was like a time zone picker.
Okay.
If you remember this, hang on. Let me see if I can.
Never used Windows, but I imagine it probably did something stupid like map it directly to the TC data zones.
Well, I'm sure, but I can see why they stopped doing this because with the data changing. Let me see if I can share this. Hang on. Let's see.
Okay.
See if this comes through. There you go. So they did this kind of like as you would like hover your mouse over it, would highlight like a different slice of the world. Like so that would be that'd be your Los Angeles time or Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific time. Right.
But yeah. So each one of the different options would have like a different highlighted sort of slice of the Earth, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know. You just reminded me of it. There you go.
Oh, I know that.
I was going to say I actually have an answer to this. This is one of the few times where I'm going to ignore it and it's going to fix itself.
Isn't that the opinion of many people? And then it never happens.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on from time zones. All right, what's next? Mike.
Wasm GC. Is it?
Are we excited? Are we excited or very excited that Chromium with Wasm GC support is out? I don't know if I'd say excited or very excited. To be honest, it's like it is exciting, and it is like obviously from a perspective of Flutter apps on web, with using the Wasm GC stuff, that's definitely very exciting. I'm kind of, obviously it's more. I think like I'm guessing it's more exciting for Danielle because her product is web based, right? Have you?
I'm very excited, yes.
Have you done any I'm kind of curious. Will you do some benchmarks on and off just to see?
I think I will. Yes.
What they kind of improve.
But I've not done them yet. Yeah, but no, definitely I want to because but the problem is that's like I mean they've released like they've definitely released certain things where it's gonna be faster on Chrome, but you still have to deal with everything else because not everybody runs Chrome, and so it's very exciting, but it's kind of like I was suggesting it's tempered though, so the part that Chrome has got it is very exciting, but the practical side of it is not necessarily there yet.
This is the thing. It does take a long time to really like, what's the word? Kind of join, get everyone sort of together, sort of like to
standards move slow.
Right? Like
standards move very slow.
And like the web standards, it has got better. Don't get me wrong. The very initial stuff was it was atrocious, the compatibility. And then when the web picked up and like there was this whole web push, it was like, okay, start making compatibility. Everyone start talking about like what the code change you need to make something compatible across all your browsers. We started getting websites around like what browsers support what features and then now we've got the what WG and everything else. It's kind of really driven like standards really well with web. But I know I
remember the early days where Perl scripts had to browser sniff to know what they could send out in terms of features in a particular application. And,
you would do that, right?
And then all the browsers started lying. I'm actually Safari or whatever, so that they would get because they had some of the compatibility. So they said, well, that's who I am then. And so you end up with this long string of complete gibberish.
It's the reason why we look at like a user agent, you go, hang on a minute, this says it's this, but it's not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that just Yeah, that was a bad idea in the first place, and it's all a workaround, right? I think Wasm is one of those things that we're going to see have wider adoption than we like, fast wide adoption, because it's what the web has wanted for a long time. Something that takes any high level language and lets it run on web. So it's very similar. So I was saying this actually during DroidCon, son. I know. I said, like, when .NET came out and we had so .NET runs on a system called IL code, or intermediary language code, or ICode for short, which is basically this sort of not quite machine code. It's not written for a specific CPU, but it's also not high level. It doesn't need to be interpreted as such, right? So it's somewhere in the middle, and because of that reason, it means it's really fast to JIT IL code straight into the machine code for that platform that you're running it on. This is this has been around a long time. This is a new concept. However, that's where Wasm comes in. Wasm is very similar in terms of a low enough level language that it can be sort of almost a one-to-one with the underlying platform. However, it doesn't have to be pre-compiled for each platform it needs to run, each chip it needs to run on, basically. So we get this advantage of as soon as Wasm becomes standardized, we're going to start. I can guarantee now we'll see C# for web being used to build websites. We're going to see F#. We're going to see D, whatever name a language, and we're going to start seeing it have an output, back-end output for Wasm, and then Wasm is going to be running in the browser, right? So we're going to start seeing like this sort of explosion in terms of languages used on web, and Flutter and Dart is just along for the ride already. So, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
It'd
be nice.
And maybe if we start seeing C# and F# and whatever type applications running the web, that's going to be a bigger than impetus to solve things like the SEO problems and stuff like that. The problems that we have because we're not building it specifically web. The more things we can get to build on, taking over and building like a canvas kind of thing, I think the better we're going to have with getting solutions out. So we're going to have more people interested in that solution.
I just thought actually I bet there's already, and I'm not asking for Craig to confirm tonight, he probably doesn't know anyway. I reckon there's already a department in Google working to upgrade their Google bots to support Wasm, to support like the outputs of Wasm and all this kind of stuff, right? And there's also going to be probably like AV companies out there that are going to be looking at like how these things interact, what the sort of obfuscation techniques are going to be involved. I'm sure there's going to be lots. Or it's a whole new realm.
It would be nice. It would be nice if Google, of all places, though, could actually figure out how to crawl a Flutter site and be able to give you SEO for it.
Yeah. See. Out of the big Google beast, this much is Flutter. The rest of it is like search and cloud and everything else, right?
Well, that's why I don't think like Microsoft's going to do it or places like that. But if we could get
See, that would be the impetus, though, right? To get Google to do it. If Microsoft did it, then Google were like, "Oh, you have to do it. It's our product."
That's true. That's true.
Right. All right. Let's see what's next on the list.
Before we take on the next question, I do want to bring up package time zone. Let's see if I can Summon. You could probably pull it up.
I could bring it up.
Yeah. The reason I want to bring it up is since we were talking about this Olson database, package time zone gets updated 5 or 6 times a year because it has to, because it contains the Olson database, and it's actually the thing that you want to be using. If your Flutter app or your Dart app uses anything related to time zones, time zone is your key there, and it has the updated Olson database all the time. It updates as frequently as that changes and gets published. And it has this wonderful thing called a TZ date time, which is datetime done properly. The datetime has this sort of claim to have an offset in it, but it's not at all universal and not at all easy to work with. TZ datetime, you can drop those in place of datetimes, but they carry around with them the extra thing of, oh, this is actually East Coast US time, or this is actually UK time or whatever. And they properly respond to doing math on them and stuff like that. So TZ datetime is your solution. If you have to deal with anything other than local time or UTC, this is the place to go.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. I tell people when they're working with time zones, like, you can drive yourself insane And always, like the way I say it is always store your dates in UTC and display them in local. That is the solution. It means you can never like have something messed up with time zones or anything else, because all the time zones and all the math between you sort of like, you're trying to get diff between two different times. It's all relative to UTC. And then when you display it, it's relative to the user that's seeing it based on their local time zone that they've got selected. Which is
there's this wonderful. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that part of that point was not missed. I mean, for sure, if you are persisting this data at all, it needs to be persisted in UTC. That period. So that's just otherwise you can always be guessing with things when you're going back and forth with what it was and stuff. So you should always be persisting in UTC period, and then at that point you might as well store it locally in UTC, and then display it in however you want it displayed.
So for those that don't know, if you have a datetime object, it's .2UTC, and that'll give you a UTC variant of the datetime stamp back. And then when you construct that, you can then have essentially two local from that.
I just put a YouTube link in the chat that is Tom Scott going through describing how screwed up dates and times and timestamps and it's a brilliant beautiful performance piece. Yes, so I put that link in the chat. So that's Tom Scott talking about this from like 5 years ago from Computer File or Number File, whatever he was working on. Yeah. Really brilliant.
He also has done. He did one on emoji on UTF-8.
He's got some pretty good stuff.
I found his playlist. Here we go. I'm going to chuck this in the chat. Honestly, for those, this is not for watching for now. Obviously, stay with our show.
Stay with us until we're done. Then go ahead and watch these. Yes.
But what I could say is the videos that Tom Scott. In fact, you know what? Let's do this. Let's share. How do I share?
I don't know. What are you sharing?
That's good. Yeah, exactly.
There. That's great.
Hang on. Let's see if we can get out. There we go. This one. There you go. That's the place. But yeah, look. So character symbols, Unicode miracle. It is a miracle. But can I just say, like he explains in the video. But for those that don't know, EBDC codes and other like code pages and all this kind of stuff during the early compute days before Unicode came out was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. You would have broken characters everywhere all the time. And Unicode was the first standard that actually made it possible to represent the entire world's languages in one data model, basically. So anyway, he can talk about cross-site CSRF attacks is another interesting one. How not to store passwords CSRF. There's the time zone. Time zone.
Yeah.
Floating point numbers. That's another great one. Explain that to people. Emojis. Internationalizing code. That's another good one.
This playlist and the daily WTF should be required viewing and reading for every programmer. This is fundamental stuff that affects how we do our job every day, but a lot of programmers don't realize the folklore that exists that has preceded them to see where these death traps are for getting all this stuff properly.
I almost feel like there should be I'm kind of interested. I saw something on construction the other day on engineering in like actual physical construction and like the process they go through, and I was like seeing the similarities in terms of software development, and I just feel like we're still such a young industry compared to all these other players that have been around hundreds and hundreds of years, right? And we still need to come up as an industry with really good practices and ways of working that work across the board. Like things like this kind of knowledge is just basic fundamentals that everyone should know, and so many people don't know it. And they talk about you think to yourself as a developer, if you don't know it, I can get along well without it, right? But what you don't realize, here's the thing, is you don't realize that your life would be a lot easier knowing these things. Does that kind of make sense? Like I feel like you can make a lot more conceptually kind of how things work together if you know the base sort of fundamentals of maybe a whole set of things. Does that?
Yeah, and there's also some things that you don't know you're missing them until you actually learn them, because it doesn't show up as missing to you. Like object-oriented programming and Liskov's substitutability principle. Very important to know, but you don't know that you need to learn that. Like when you have a child class and a parent class relationship, you should be able to use the child anywhere you've used the parent. And that's not obvious to people as they're starting to learn about, animals and dogs and cats and stuff when they're doing the initial diagrams. Yeah, so it's interesting to have learned these stuff over the year, but it's hard for me to teach this stuff because I don't remember what was important to me as I was going along. Yeah, but those aha moments are all useful. If you can imagine relaying, but this is actually part of the thing that I face as trying to be a trainer and a presenter frequently as a Google developer expert. One of the things that's required of me is to be out there all the time. And I'm always thinking, well, what can I talk about today? What's even interesting? And then I go, oh, well, maybe not everybody knows this. And then I publish a video on my YouTube channel and people go, oh, I never knew that. And it's so great to get that kind of response back. What it looked like it was something obvious sort of to me, but that's part of the fun of being able to communicate with other people. It's why we do this show too, is, it's not that we're the smartest people on the planet. We probably are, but I mean, we also have learned things and we want to share that to help people out with that. So, okay.
Relating to that, one of the things that I always found interesting was when I was in college, and there'd be times where like the professor would ask a question and you would instantly know the answer. And you realize, wow, that's really cool. But until the question was asked, you didn't know you never thought of it. You didn't know that you needed to know the answer. You didn't know what the answer was. But as soon as it was asked, right, even sometimes that's all it takes to understand how things are.
I think it's not just that, but as a developer, you're doing problem solving quite a lot, especially when it comes to like the technicalities and also the technicalities of multiple frameworks, platform systems, and the behavior between them and how it affects your code that you're building on top of that stuff. And it's like you have to understand some of those fundamentals like across the board about all these different things to really see how your piece of that puzzle fits in the bigger jigsaw, to see the behavior that it's having because of emergent behavior and that kind of like principles of how everything combines together is no one can really know. Like it's so complicated. Like we talk about building Flutter apps being simple, it is, but computing, like no. In terms of simple compared to others, right? Like it's easy, like maybe simple, but easier than others to build. However, it's still just as complicated where it sits in terms of software across the entire board, right? Across the entire sort of stack. All right, shall we get back onto some questions?
Well, I think we're exposing good information here too, so it's not like
hopefully people find it interesting. Anyway, for Simon, right? What's this? The backend state on state extension from WoW Shopping uses context X repo getters. It is a problem that could suppress use build context synchronously lints. Interesting. To be honest, I don't know if it does. That is an interesting problem, but equally, I would say that's a problem with the linter not going down enough levels because it's not a lot to go down a sort of a getter level in terms of resolving where the content of the variable is coming from, and if that uses the context. But yeah, I agree that it could be it. To be fair, though, equally. You could also have it so that it crashes or warns you in certain situations. Your code does, or don't use your code in that way.
I would think you would want to put backend state on top of a state object because the state object may not be around forever, and you probably want to know the state of what your backend is. And your app otherwise.
I can probably bring this up in a bit, but basically the idea was there's a mixin that just adds a bunch of getters to a context or to a state. There's both options, and both just do essentially provider.of context, get whatever it is, right? So the point here is that if you were to use that, do something async, and then use the getter after the async process completes, the context may be unmounted, at which point it would crash. And that's where this use build context synchronously lint comes in, because it actually picks up those uses. But by the sounds of what Chris was saying here, only picks it up because you're using the context variable after an async and await, not it's not chasing down the getter to see if it's using context, under the hood. And yeah, it could suppress that. But again, actually something that came up the other day, there's another one that's not a lint check, and I so far I haven't. This has been on my radar for. Hang on, I'm going to go find out when did I make my note. I made a note of this. This is like, again, another perfect lint that we could have. Okay, 5th of the 9th, so 5th of September. This has been on my radar, and it's basically use widget. Basically the same thing. Use widget synchronously. So what happens is, in a state object, you can use widget at any point after and await. But the problem here is the widget itself for that state object might have been switched out in the meantime. So you're starting you start your function that's inside your state object, knowing that maybe a parameter had one value that came to your widget, and then after and await, it may be a completely different value. And it's the same problem of using something after and await. You don't know how the state of your app has changed. And again, that's when what you should be doing is it's just good common practice to do, and that is any asynchronous function, ensure that any variables it uses are passed in as parameters. That's just good practice. This way you cannot have state change underneath you whilst your asynchronous process is running. So yeah, just be thoughtful of using getters all the time and not variables directly, right?
And that's also where your skills come in about doing future with .then rather than using await as your future driver, because that's await is really ultimately just syntax for using future .then. But most people aren't learning that skill anymore because we introduced await midway through the language design, and now although everything is still functional with .then, people aren't learning that as frequently. So
yeah, I use await. I can't remember the last time I used it .then.
I prefer using async and await from a readability perspective, but I still understand it as being the then approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, interesting. It is definitely a different paradigm.
Cool.
All right.
Right. Next. Let's see. Oh, and this question, by the way, Jamin, pronounce that, sorry. You posted this question over and over again. And every time you posted it, we had to move it further down the queue. So we're finally to you, but don't do that. We say that at the beginning of the show. People don't listen. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, actually, what is the official supported version of Xcode? Because it may not be 15, right? It may be the most recent version of Xcode, but it also may not be the one that's supported by Flutter. So I know there was so what happens is, and this is the same with all sort of stuff it introduces works with Xcode, is they come out with the beta stuff and everything else, and the idea is everyone builds against the beta. But what really ends up happening a lot of the time is that they release a version and then the stuff breaks, then people fix it, right? So there's a sort of a gap between stuff working with Xcode and then Xcode releases and then stuff not working. So when there's just good practice from my experience with this, not just with Flutter but with other things, whenever a new version of Xcode or the operating system comes out for Mac, hold off, wait for a while until the dust settles. And once the dust settles, then you can go download it once you know and you've been told it's compatible with your developer tools. Otherwise, if you're not getting any advantage by going to the next version, why bother?
Yeah.
What's
yeah, anecdotal evidence on my side. We had issues that were there. And eventually they just kind of went away. We don't know why, which is always scary. So out of my 3 people, this is violating SOC, so I probably shouldn't say it, but out of my 3 people, only one of us is on the latest version of Mac OS / Xcode right now because of the issues that we've got a big deadline, like I said. So in fact, I'm gonna be leaving in a few minutes, but we had that issue, and that's exactly. Although Simon from the docs, from the Flutter docs, what it says is to install Xcode and install the latest stable version of Xcode.
Yeah, which for
It's
me is
just good practice.
15.01.
It's just good. They do have somewhere listed what versions are compatible. I know because we get announcements saying new versions are compatible in the Flutter Announce channel, Flutter Announce group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to locate it.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right
Nope.
there. It says specifically latest version, latest stable version.
We're probably minutes away from the next Flutter release, given their weekly time schedule. So maybe it'll be the thing that fixes what we're actually discussing right now.
I'm sure Craig would tell us that the bunnies are hard at work and the gnomes are there working away, trying to fix the problems that everyone's experiencing right now. Because they do know there's problems, and it's not an unknown. I mean, obviously, everyone makes a sound and they go, "Oh my gosh, quick!"
I fear we've chased Craig away. He hasn't posted in a while, so
Yeah, he's probably gone.
Here we go. Fix Xcode 15 launch failure with iOS 17 on 3.13.7 was announced just recently. So these things come up. They're fixing the bugs.
Craig says the bunnies do the typing. Yeah, do be typing.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, there is a Flutter Announce Google group where they announce all these kind of breaking changes or bug fixes and other things. I'll pop the link in the chat, and I'll bring it up on the stream as well here, just so that people know. It's just Flutter/announce, and I can present that hopefully just so people can see the kind of content you might see. So there you go. So someone said, please to announce that now Instable channel hotfix relates to fixing iOS Xcode 15 launch failures. So again, what in the group changes. There's also we did also take a look at this on terms of breaking changes, that there is actually a part of the flutter.dev website in the documentation. Do you guys remember where this was? It was it's like the release notes section.
Right. I always just am Googling for it. I go Google breaking changes Flutter, and then whatever comes up top. I don't have anything bookmarked. There we go.
And Mike, by the way, Mike is pointing out that CocoaPod's update helps, but I can tell you from our anecdotal case, it actually didn't for a while, and then all of a sudden it was fine. So we don't know.
Another thing you can do, I know CocoaPods actually requires a Ruby update as well to get to the latest version of CocoaPods, and that also requires you to then do brew and a bunch of other things and patches, and obviously Mac depends on Ruby, so there's another. Yeah. Anyway, have fun. Right. Okay. Yeah. So just to direct people here, which is the break and change and migration guide section of the site, and this is the things that you want to be paying attention to. These are the things. These are the future break and change that are going to be coming that have not been released into stable yet. So you know what you're going to be having to fix as it comes up into the future, right? Read these things. They may change, but at least you're at least remotely aware of these things needing to update, right, and change. For example, deprecating the describe enum and enum properties. And this is because now we have .name on enums now, right? So I think there you go. So instead of using describe enum to do print, you do .name on the right. So these are small things, but there's also bigger things going on in here. So worth checking out. All right. Where are we on now?
Next thing probably.
Yeah.
Whatever the next thing is.
David's question looks like it's next. Yeah.
No, next one. Oops.
That one. Yeah. Okay. Finally, one I know cold. Of course, so does everybody else. But finally, one.
Read. Shall I read the question?
Sure. So when you have a row within constraints, I thought you said it's me to read it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you read it. Go.
Yeah. When you have a row within a constrained space, how do you lay out multiple text widgets so that they take up the same space even when one text is longer? I tried fitted box, but it scales it down. All right. Well, I guess we should let Randall answer it.
No. You can answer it. I know. Go
I know
ahead.
everybody. Yeah, that's actually. I think there's a couple ways, but I think expanded is probably your friend there. And the cool thing about
you should
that,
learn what Flex is about, because
exactly,
then
yes,
immediately to understand why expanded is the proper solution for this.
exactly. But what I want to say on this though is we could give that answer and you'd be fine. You go do what you want, and that's no big deal. However, what's really cool about that is that defaults flex to 1. So kind of what Randall was hinting at is you could actually using the different flex amounts, you could actually say that, well, this one is twice as big as each other one. You could say, expanded flex 2, expanded, and then now you got one that's twice as big. And you can do, basically you'll ultimately get any math you need to with that. Although it can get complicated.
Or 7/13 says big. You can do as long as you get all those integers in. Unfortunately, Flex is an integer, as I recall.
Yeah.
So you have to come work out math that's related to it. If you want 3 things that are exactly the same size, people I've seen try to make sure all the numbers add up to 100, and then they get stuck because they can't put 33.3. So just do it, put 111. That's the ratio.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Or actually none. Actually, you don't need to put it in there if it's 1, because that's the default.
Yeah.
I will also. Do you know what? I feel like I want people to submit layouts, complex layouts or behaviors from layouts, and I show them how to do them, because, another one that most people don't use enough of, and there are expanded is definitely the prime go-to, but is also just change it. So expanded is a flexible with a tight fit. There's also loose fit, which is just a flexible, and again, you can give it a weight, but if it doesn't take up as much size, it isn't required to.
Right.
And this can also work really well, especially with text. It's very important. So, you say, how do you have the layout multiple text widgets so they take up the same space,
right,
even when one text is longer? So this one's like this. So you want to take up the same space, even when one text is longer. Again, what you might be experiencing here is one where it's actually. This is actually one that I remember teaching Danielle, which was intrinsic width or intrinsic height as well. So if you've got multiple text going down in a column and you want them all to take up the same width, you can put a cross-axis line stretch on the column. And then if you want to be as big as the largest text, then you wrap the entire thing in an intrinsic width. And that says, give me the intrinsic width of all those texts as if they were one line, and then use the longest one to measure all of them width, and they all get set to that width.
Yeah,
Simon,
that's actually that's true. Yeah,
Simon's good at finding things.
Yeah,
the difference there has a lot to do, with what Simon's saying. The difference there can affect it when it's a more complicated layout. The other thing I want to point out is the fact that when you put it in expanded, that also will solve the fact that your text is too long in a row or something. It'll solve that. Because now all of a sudden it'll cause it to wrap, because it now is setting a width, and so it'll cause the text to wrap. And so it's actually can be a good practice in a lot of ways because of that. Because otherwise you get your little yellow and black lines across the side.
I still think we're missing. There's always times when I'm doing layouts. There's always times when I'm doing layouts, and I feel like we're missing. I want something to be this big, but no smaller, but then this big, but no bigger, right? Now the normal constraints are supposed to solve that, but it doesn't. It depends on how they're the min and max widths. I mean, what you mostly want is a ratio, or minimum maximum ratios and other sort of ways of dealing with layout that the standard widgets don't apply. And when that happens, you got the power to do it in Flutter. You have
Boxy. You've got Boxy. You can always go back to that.
The solution to everything, Boxy. No, what I mean. You can do custom layouts, right? And it gives you the support to do custom layouts. So, I do feel like there is definitely room for Flutter to. I think I saw this the other day. I can't remember who tweeted it, but I the problem we've got. And that's, I think, all three people on the screen here, I can talk for everyone here, is that we've been using Flutter for so long that we look over its faults. There's things that we go, oh, I'll do that. I'll just use this widget, or just build it with this way. I wouldn't spend time hunting around for trying to find a solution with the inbuilt stuff when I go, oh, I just do it like this, right? So I think it's really interesting to hear everyone's questions, especially about these kind of things, because it puts in perspective for us, and it really does help the Flutter team, right, in terms of understanding where people are having problems using the framework and where they could be making improvements to the language, not just to the documentation, but what widgets are missing, how they can better facilitate building apps, right?
Well,
it's like go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, I want to be clear to David that I was not trying to belittle anything on that question by being excited that I knew it cold. I've run into this, and I've found the solution for it. This is not, I mean, this bothered me probably. I probably don't want to admit on air how recently I learned that I just need to do that at some point. You know, the last time I knew it without having to Google it, was more recent than I'd probably like to admit. So I definitely want to make sure that I get that out there. But yeah, it's a pretty cool solution overall. And I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Oh yeah. You
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Danielle.
So,
see you soon.
Thanks, Danielle.
On the note,
I wanted to do that just to follow up to what you just said a moment ago, which is that I remember on this show last year, I think it was, where I was announcing that I'd finally figured out sized box expand. And you had said, "Oh, that's been in there the whole time, and I've been using it for all these years." And I'm going, I just found it out. But it solves all these cool situations. And I just revealed position.fill to somebody else because they were putting in zeros for everything. I go, "Why didn't you just use position.fill?" Of course.
I mean, I actually had something the other day. What was I doing? I wanted to. Here's something. So during DroidCon, I haven't figured this one out. To be honest, I haven't figured this one out myself. But during DroidCon, I wanted to do some live coding, so I was just coding some stuff out, and I decided to start a breakout game. You remember Breakout, the Atari? You had basically, for those that don't know, you have blocks on the top of the screen. You have a bat, a flat line at the bottom of the screen with a ball, and you hit the ball up, and you have to like bounce it and hit all the bricks to get rid of and you have to basically get rid of all the bricks. And each time you get rid of a brick, you get maybe different power-ups and points and various things.
It's kind of like Pong Solitaire, if you want to think about it in terms of learning where the paddle has to go and how the English works off of it. So, yeah.
Anyway, so what was I going to say? Anyway, so I started building this. And we could actually do some like coding on it, actually, because there's kind of some interesting problems that arise in my mind around how do you do the layouts. So, for example, you want the game state you want the screen to be represented by the game state. Now, it's such a simple game. You could just do a paint with a canvas, paint some rectangles and a circle, and you're done. Like there's ways of tackling like these games, which are like you just paint it all. If you're trying to do something like arcade from the original, you've got a simple enough just to paint it. However, as soon as you go, well, I want that brick to have like an animation happening on it. Well, now suddenly you've gone to the level of widgets, right? This is where you want that each thing on the screen has properties, and obviously you use flame or whatever, right? But the point here is how do you lay out these things? Anyway, coming back to the point was I wanted to use I thought, I just use a position. I just use a position all the widgets, boom, I'm done. And then I was like, wait a second, but I don't want to have to go use a layout builder to go get the width to work out how big the blocks should be and where they should be on the screen. I mean, that's layout. And that's the realization you might go, well, I should be using a custom layout. So you can do a custom layout. But then at what point am I defeating the purpose of using the widget system? What I really should be thinking about is making widgets that solve certain problems. And this one was I wanted them to take up a fractional amount of the screen, but be positioned fractionally also. And there's no widget for that. There's no like position. There's no like stack fractional, right? Like it just doesn't exist. I'm like, is that? I mean, that you have row and column, and I could build it out of rows and columns. But again, with expanded and everything else, but like that just like the whole idea of row and column and expanded is to give you that flexibility to have it and not have it. But when you want to like fractionally size a bunch of things, there's not a real good widget in the framework to do that. I don't think. I can't think of one. This fractionally sized box, that's.
I think you can get part of the way with having a line inside stack and then position inside that, because a
How do you-
line is
but
proportionally based.
right. But then you've got, that's what I'm trying to work out, like width factor and height factor of a
Oh,
line.
yeah.
It's the
Okay.
child size, not
Boxy.
not the pen. But this is what I'm trying to get at. Like at what point do you decide I need, like, if as soon as you start, this is the thing I think of my friend, in my brain at least, I start doing these things, and as soon as I start kind of running into problems, I'm like, either is there a widget that does this for me, and you should obviously start researching that, and if there isn't, then then don't try to throw widgets together to try and get the behavior you're looking for. Go for a custom layout. Like, it's not super difficult, and most of the time is your layout, your custom layout is going to do the exact behavior you're looking for, and just that. Like, whereas all the layouts that you see inside the framework are meant to be like library objects, which means that they have a wide variety of parameters and ways of using them. When you have a particular layout you're trying to achieve, you have just that thing. It ends up being 4 or 5 lines of like layout code, layout this, position that, and you're done. It doesn't have to be really, really complicated with lots of parameters and everything, right? So, and then, if you do start needing more and more from it, you can start expanding upon it and building out from it, right? But yeah,
that is why I like that. That is why I keep referring to Boxy, though, because Boxy puts just a thin layer over that lowest layer, but makes it real easy to have things that are positioned based on names and stuff. So it's really a clever package and solves a lot of those issues. So just that's why I put the link to it in the chat, so we can get to that. We can probably move on, I guess, right?
Yep.
Beat this to
more questions, then we'll get some live coding. I think maybe we'll try to do a breakout game. That might be fun.
Yeah, there we go. Flutter Wasm unstable cannot include Dart HTML or package JS. This limitation includes URL launcher. Web app without links is a bit meh in many cases. Is there support on master yet? Well, do we know? I don't know if we know.
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I've not even tried the Wasm support right now. And I would suggest you raise a tweet and a little message to Kevmu, who is definitely the Wasm guru, especially when it comes to the Flutter website. I think he owns the Flutter web product, and at least he knows who does. I think he might change hands recently. Is he the product manager for both those things? I think he is the product manager for it. I don't know. Anyway, I've honestly lost track of who does what now. There's been some changes recently.
We should get one of them on to tell us the hierarchy that the rest of them can't tell us. Yeah. There we go.
Anyway,
we don't work for Google, by the way. We are just outsiders like y'all, except we have friends. That's the only difference, is that we're closer to that. This one looks like a fun question here. Why is stack not implemented in Dart while Q is implemented? Have you looked at package collection? Have you seen Q in there? Have you seen that basically you can use the Q as a stack efficiently in there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm saying the guy, not to you.
It is interesting. I feel like there's several class and things that there's no need to have a separate class, but from a program that comes outside, maybe this is more about documentation and naming, right? Like, it's the same thing, right? Like, and to be clear about it, maybe is literally making a class that's called stack that actually is just a queue under the hood, right? And it solves that kind of problem. Because I've had this problem myself in the past, and then once I've read it out, okay, I'll just use that, and and I move on, right? And I forget that we should really be like, again, I feel like I'm harping on about this, apologies, but yeah, we should feed this back to the Dart and Flutter teams so that they can improve for everyone else coming fresh, right?
Right, and Q is not in core; it's in package collection, right? I think.
No, it's in core. Cool.
Oh, see if I can get that straight.
What did I see the other day? There's actually I saw one of these things. Was it in .core? I have to find it now. I think it was Dart Collection has Q. Yeah, Dart Collection has Q. Yeah, it does.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
In Dart Core, that is. That's another thing. Sorry. Oh my God, Dart Collection in the Core SDK. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Actually, I just looked on here. Like unmodifiable list view. There's no like it's a base. It's not a mixin. There's mixins for other things, and when I go looking, they're always private in the framework. And I'm like, why are these things private? I want to take advantage. Now I have to recreate it myself. It's like it should just be. There should be more base interfaces and classes to extend the subset, base subset functionality that the framework offers. But yeah, is it list queue? That was another one? Yeah. So list queue was the one I was looking at the other day, which was it keeps a cyclic buffer of elements and grows to a larger buffer when it fills up. This guarantees consistent time peak and remove operations, but amortize constant time add operations. So means you can basically treat a queue as a list and vice versa, which is really very helpful. Queue in itself is just sort of an interface, right?
Right. Okay. The next one's got two parts. Let's see if I can get the first part up first. Need a little bit of clarity of handling localization, specifically for American and British English, using the default Flutter localization SDK. Yeah. And then the second part is I find that I would have a base app enr, but then I'd have to duplicate things. Yes. Two countries separated by a common language.
Yes and no. You don't have to. Well, you only have to put in. So app en is your base language, and then you can do app en _GB, and that would be your Great British things. You do not need all your keys in both ARB files because you can set en as your base ARB file. So in Flutter localizations, you can choose which is your fallback ARB file. And once you choose your fallback ARB file, it means that any keys that are missing from the specific language, you will use the fallback one, right? And that's how you solve that. But again, this is kind of just like limitations around code things. No, it's the other way around, Craig. It's the other way around. Do you see? Can I just confirm this? English is spelt with an S, not a Z, right?
Right. Exactly. All right, let's move on. I want to start wrapping up here, getting some stuff done. Oh, wait, that was the thing we just did. Sorry. Here down. Here we go. I need to change my bottom sheet height dynamically according to the height of the content. You would be required to know the size of the content before changing the sheet height. Any idea how?
Okay, so I'm kind of curious. Hey, okay. Jeb, hold on a second. You have a bottom sheet, and you want to change the height of the content and required to know the size of the content before changing the sheet height. Okay. Are you trying to like animate to the height? Is that what the problem is? I think like it's kind of interesting, right? I do like this one actually. So maybe we can do if you leave it in the queue. Well, I'm taking unstar it. Sorry, don't unstar it, and we'll leave this in the queue, and I'll come back to this in a second. But what happens is this is a common practice problem, which is totally annoying. When it comes to a declarative approach and imperative work. So let me explain the problem so people understand. So you have some content in your box. In fact, you have some content like in your, let's say, call it a box on the screen. It's a bottom sheet in this case, but it doesn't matter. You've got some content that's a certain height. That might be intrinsically this high, right? Then you maybe have it so you can like swipe, and then it shows some content that's larger in size. Now, what you need to do is have the bottom sheet grow in height to accommodate this larger content to animate it. Exactly, this is what I was getting to, right? So you have this small content and large content. And to animate between the two, you either have to know the exact height or, and this is the key concept, a proportional height. So you know that you started off with like 1.0 and you're now going to 2.0, or vice versa. You started at 0.5 and now at 1.0 for the full height. You can do that kind of thing. And that way you don't have to know specific pixels, which is the key where you want to go to. You don't want to be measuring stuff in pixels. As soon as the key to all of this is if at the widget layer, you should not be dealing with pixels. Full stop. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it. Push that down to layout. So if you have a custom layout that uses uses dips, if you have some other sort of stuff in the sort of layout and paint, that's all sort of renders that. But the widget layer, use fractionals, use alignments, use anything but, you know, dips and pixels, right? That's kind of where you want to go, especially when it comes to like these sort of like animations and laying things out. Obviously, you know, that's not how it works in practice, but you definitely be using any size box. Like, just if you've got a size box with a width and height, question why you have that width and height, and is there any way that width and height can get bigger? Because I can pretty much guarantee you, if it has text in it, you broke your layout, because text will change its height based on the user's accessibility, in which case your layout entirely breaks, right? So anyway, back to the point. We'll have a play around with that, and I'll show you some different approaches we can make with that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll leave it in the queue, but I'll go to the next one, which is any advanced tips regarding Flutter localization workflows besides the basic official docs, like third-party translations, helpful IDE extensions, etc.
There's Localizely. There's a bunch of services that offer Flutter support, and they hook into. In fact, I really like the notion of. So, first of all, the Flutter's localization system is really nice. It just says, I'll provide a class that extends app localization or something like that. That's your base, and it has a load function, and it's asynchronous, and that's it. That's like the fundamental basics of the entire system. So you can go load all so the whole ARB thing that the previous questioner was asking about, you don't have to do that. That's just a way of doing it. You can just have JSON files with keys and your values, and you can just read those in as maps, and then have like a key name lookup, and that's it. You've done localization, right? Based on this key, which could just be an ID number, it could be an enum, it could be a key name. Can go look up in a hash map where the English text should be, and it returns the text. You've just made localization work, right? You just have those 3 different ones. And what's really nice about this approach is that this is the difference between Flutter and other languages, or other frameworks, should I say. A lot of other frameworks will go, you must do it this way. Here's the way you must do it. And the problem with this is, as soon as you want to deviate from that, it doesn't work. You're broken. You have to hack around the implementation the platform wants to give you, or you kind of just directed into this one approach to doing things. And again, it may not solve your particular use case of what you're trying to do. For example, over-the-air updates of localizations, right? Like, you want to be able to, oh no, we released the app and spelling was wrong, or in this language this was done. We don't have to re-release the entire app to change this text. So if you host a text somewhere, and then in the load, it just calls out to an API and goes, okay, is there a newer version of my localizations? Great, download them. That could just be a bucket. It could, simple stuff like that. Done. You download it, it caches it, it uses that for the localizations. No code generation required, and away you go. The whole approach of using ARBs and code generation is just an approach to using of localization, right? Just to be clear about how this whole system works. Okay, all right, coming back to Pat. So that hopefully that helps you in terms of advanced stuff for localization and workflows, because you can do whatever you want, right? That's the key. Now, sorry, briefly come back to the point I mentioned. Flutter gives you this, like lots of other frameworks give you a fixed way. Flutter gives you, here's the basics things you need to do, and here's how you integrate with our framework. The rest is completely up to you, and here's our recommended approach, or here's our approach that we see working on top. But that's modular. Anyway, right. So so localize. Spell. I'll bring this. These are tools that I've used in Flutter apps before, so I'll pop them up on the screen here. So you've got. It says. So you got localize, spelled like this. That's a service that supports Flutter, and then there's also localizely, if I could spell it. And there's another one that supports Flutter. These are just third-party services. All have their own mechanism of using a web interface to help you with the translations. You can pay and get experts to actually read your localizations and translate them for you. Or you can just use point and click like Google Translate or whatever. A lot of them do allow you to upload screenshots of your app for context, and it'll actually identify the text in the screenshots or put the keys on there, and you can have like mappings and stuff. There's pretty cool things you can do with localization to help with workflows. But equally, you know, it's not too difficult to like have your own simple workflow behind the sort of scenes. I mean, look, we just talked about Flutter Web. You can go stick a data table in the Flutter Web thing, have it edit a JSON file, do whatever you want to in your special way, and then have it either output JSON files that ship with the app. And when a new version of the app is released, it puts them in a bucket, and your code can download them live. Now you've got shipped localizations with your app, and you've got over-the-air update of localizations, all with some simple file access, some simple network access, and some JSON files.
Cool.
Right?
Cool.
You don't need like super advanced things to do cool stuff. Anyway, go on.
And before we go to the next question, I just wanted to say that you might have seen me reaching across and turning off my mic when I was coughing, and I'm reminded of this episode. I think it was of Frasier, where Frasier has a guest in his room in his broadcasting booth, and he says, "And this is the cough switch," and the person he's talking to says, "How does that make you cough?" Meaning, of course, the switch that you can use to cut off when you're coughing, not when it makes you cough. Anyway, that was
and nowadays we have AI, so we don't even need to do that.
Yeah, exactly. You probably wouldn't hear it anyway with the stuff I've got in line and this stuff anyway. So, okay, on XY Day, I, Matt, Casey, discussed making a bottom sheet that is scrollable, that when the list reaches the top, does not overscroll, but starts dismiss drag. No look, any pointers? We suspect a bug.
All right, leave that one on there as well. In fact,
all right.
I swear I saw a tweet just before the show that was someone that was having these exact problems with like
maybe it was these guys.
Maybe it was actually. I think was Mike replying? I think Mike was replying on something.
Yep.
Anyway,
I'll leave that up.
It might be good to try and find that. Just I can't remember what it was. Maybe Mike, you can send me a link in a DM somewhere. But it'd be good to look at that. So it's the same sort of problem. And annoyingly, I remember who it was. It was super declarative. It was Matt Carroll. Hang on, let me see if I can. I never seem to get his tweets recently. I don't know why. They don't seem to come through to my account. Right. Sorry. I've lost where I was now. Sorry.
If we're going to do some live coding, we should probably stop taking questions.
Yeah. I think we'll stop taking questions, and we'll continue asking questions.
Roberto, you're the last one, and everybody after that, please come back in 160. Oh, it's 166 hours or 167? I think 167 hours, because this show's going to be an hour later than the previous week. This week,
it was most definitely Matt Carroll. So he says here, I'm trying to figure out how bottom sheet sizing and drag works in Flutter Dev so I can customize its behavior. Half these dev classes are private. If you don't customize the behavior that you can't access, this is a common experience in Flutter, and it's infuriating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that gets hidden in private classes. It's really kind of useful stuff, and I can understand the reason for that is that they don't want to support those internal APIs. But sometimes you just want to get at it. Like my favorite one recently is the fact that Future Record has versions of it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which is you can have up to 9 futures, then say .wait on them, and create one future that's waiting for all of them. That's really cool. But they don't have it for one. And I'm thinking if you're editing things in and out, sometimes you get to the border case where you only have one thing and you have to change to an entirely different protocol to wait for just one feature than you have for when you're waiting for two features. And I think, oh, I can just add it myself. No, it relies on internal classes that are private in the base class for feature record 2 through 9. So it's like, I have to copy all that code just to get this one thing made. Anyway.
That is it. Like there was some stuff around like there's been another one around like was it I think some of the dialogue box stuff. I'm like, I don't want to have to change some parameters. It's happened to me a couple of times now.
Oh yeah, because they treat transitions in a real particular way, and you have to, if you want like a more flexible transition or something, you've got to basically reproduce everything down to the lowest layer. Yeah.
They have actually improved that quite a lot. Actually, to say that they've actually added lots more parameters, and it's been growing, but it's still. I want. I need to come back to that anyway. Right. So there, leave that on the track, and we'll look at that a little bit.
Okay. All right. Here's the next one. Repository pattern I first encountered. And wow, that's the thing you're working on, right?
Yeah.
One for products, another for wish list. Do you recommend a repository per entity or more per feature?
So I think that there's an interesting pattern. The repository pattern. You can go look up. Domain-driven design (DDD), which there's an overlap, not exact overlap, but there's an overlap. The way I see it is if an entity has a particular, for example, their shopping app product is something that's used everywhere, and it makes sense to have some sort of global way of referring to products, and the notion of that type of entity within that application. Therefore, a product repository makes sense. However, another thing that might be more of a feature-based thing, like what Mike say is, for example, authentication. You might have you want some global control, app state control over authentication or authorize, in terms of who's logged into the app. You could have a user repository, but then does that deal with one user or all users? How do I find users' profiles? Like suddenly it becomes a different matter, and that's where per feature comes in terms of you might have an auth manager. So I name things as a repository or manager, and the determination there is a repository is more about an entity, whereas a manager is more about managing a feature of the application, managing, in this case, authentication. So you still might have a user repository that deals with fetching users, caching user profiles, I don't know, whatever else you need to do. Whereas you might have an authentication manager, which is more about who is currently authorized to use the app, what user profile they're using, what are the products that they've bought, So does that hopefully kind of help in terms of a notion of thinking about the repository pattern, as we call it? So I don't know. I mean, again, the whole point of these things is just to give like a name to some sort of structure and behaviors. And when when we talk about repository pattern, we all know what we're talking about. And yeah, it's just kind of.
And I think people get too hung up on folder layouts and naming of things. There's so much religion around this, and whether it's MVC or MVVM, and am I doing dependency injection or just location? It's like, what the heck? You just need to wire this to that and it's done. Or I remember in Star Wars, this goes over here, that goes over there. Chewie, come on. Okay, on to the next one. Let's get out of here. Let's do the next one here. How to write a test for a widget which is shown after a certain duration with an animation. Ooh, isn't that just the wait until thing? No, not just.
How do I write a test for a widget that is shown after a certain duration with an animation? So this is a funny thing because tests and time don't make any sense at all. There's a thing called fake async, which is what essentially tests use. And the idea here is that you might say, let's say future dot, is it wait? Future dot, I forgot what it is now.
Future delay. Future dot delay.
Yeah, future delayed. Sorry, future dot delayed, like 300 milliseconds. Let's say 5 minutes you could do, right? And in a test, it fires like immediately
Ah.
because async the timing and the way that timing works during tests is compressed on purpose, because a lot of the time waiting around is not something you actually want to do during tests. So by default, that is not the way it works. So yeah, you're gonna have fun with that. How to write a test in which is shown after certain duration. I mean, what you can do is when you write a widget test, you can say you can give the what's it called? It's the top level test. Is it test widget? Oh, my brain's just
pumping something. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, pump and settle, and you can give it a duration, and that will keep pushing the time forward. Essentially, it's the same. Let me just be clear about this, Turf. It's the same as saying add 300 milliseconds to the current time in an instant. It's not the same as wait 300 milliseconds. Do you with me? Like, so it won't increase the time your test should still be exactly the same. It just adds, like, imagine the time that your test is taken to run is one thing, but actually the time, the what's the best way of putting this? It's like you've got a little pocket space time that runs for each test, right? So you're just saying, oh, add 5 years, bosh, done. You know, like, and to the entire world of that test, the world's preceded 5 years, right, in an instant. If that makes sense, hope that kind of helps a little bit. And customize open close animation. So another thing is the animations don't run. Do they? I've got to remember now. You want to be careful. So check there's a flag to stop animations from being run during tests. Deep. Damn it. Okay. Like you slow down animations. There's a
yeah, I remember
as a
that.
debug. Oh God, I don't remember that. Time dilation. That's the one. Time dilation. That is actually the property. Yeah. So let me pop this in the chat, and then I'll also bring it up. So the one you're missing. Let's see if I can bring this up in the share. There you go. So yeah, time dilation slows down animation by a factor and help during development. Reset epoch to ensure that timestamps are consumed by the scheduler. It's just like a global time dilation. There you go.
Debugging animations, just like what was being.
Yeah, there's actually one for. I'm sure there's another. I feel like there's. I seem to remember. There is. There's more flags in this, and I can't for the life of me remember what they are. Hang on, I wonder if I can void main. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it up. So there's actually a whole set of flags that start with debug. Has directionality, has material, has overlay, animation. Debug semantics, disable animations.
Wow.
I think that's the one. Let's have a look. I think this is the one. Let's have a look. Override the setting. There you go. For debugging testing. This value is, yeah. So basically, you set this global flag, and then it sets the disable animation, the schedule binding, basically to disable animations from taking place. And I think it's on by default. I forget. So you might also want to check that out, because that also might catch you out. So yeah, I'll pop that in the chat. There you go. Hopefully that puts you in the right direction. But yeah, debug semantics, disable animations. Yeah, right.
Cool.
Right. What's the last question?
Here we go. It's how to listen for GPS positions in the background. Oh, our favorite questions involve the word background. Always. Packages such as geolocator, location, and background listening, but when an app goes in the background, no position data is received to the app. That's
Good.
because you'll be wasting battery if you do that. Don't burn my battery up, please.
Roberto, what you're looking for is again, these are mainly platform specific behaviors, right? So this is nothing to do with Flutter particularly. This is just the way that Android, for example, iOS, for example, work. On Android, I can talk to Android specifically from doing this for years. If you want to do this, you have to start what's called a foreground service. A foreground service requires you to. There's now it's actually two things. So there's a background location permission, which is considered a dangerous permission that you might need to request. And there's also a foreground service permission and a foreground notification. What you want to look up is foreground services. And there's tons of stuff on foreground services on Android that you can go look up. But yeah, there's new permissions and roles around that, and yeah, it's not fun. And you're going to have to look at doing custom. Actually, saying that there is actually a package. There is a package on Pub Flutter background service. Background. Let me find it. I'll know it when I see it. Service. I think this is the one. Yes, this is the one. All right, so I'll pop this in the chat and I'll bring it up on screen. So again, you might end up having to your particular situation. You may end up having to build your own. This is it here. But this one is one that's built a package that you can plug in that you can just use to execute Dart code in the background, which is what you're trying to do. Continue your app running. No additional settings is required for Android. Just change that to change the Android notification drawable. You change these things, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just showing you in here how you might do this. And yeah, so you can see here, you create one of these things and you create a notification channel for a foreground service. You can call it whatever you want. This is just the title. And then there's similarly, when you start it up, it will then, when it starts, it will present that notification to the user. The user can always stop your service from running in the background, right? And there's also, I think, is it, what's the base flow? Is it permissions handler?
Yeah, permissions plus. One of the plus packages.
Permissions handlers like base flow. I believe they've now got. I think it's background location somewhere in one of these things. That's not the one. I'm sure there's a list. I hit permission status. Is that the one? No, permission. Of course, it's permission. That sounds right. This is like a list of all the permissions. I think there's now a
critical alerts. Location when in use. Yeah, that was, yeah.
When the app is running in the foreground, here you go. Location always, even when the app is running in the background, and that's the one you need to request. I feel like there's. I'm pretty sure it does support. I know there's a new background permission. I'm just gonna find it right now. Why not? Android.
And the way I understand it is, if you ask for this for your app, you're going to get pushback from the stores to say, how legit is that? Because they won't release stuff to the store. They go, well, I just need to know where the user is. No, you don't just need to know where the user is. Why? Why do you need to know that?
So here you go. Background location access checklist. Use the following to identify location in logic. Is your app manifest course and this? Verify your app requires these permissions. If your app targets Android 10, API level 29 or higher, check you have the access background location permission. Verify this. Verify the app has this feature and that actually requires this. What's going to happen is as soon as you try to publish an app with this permission, which is considered a dangerous permission, I think it's noted in here somewhere. Hang on. The one time I clicked on it. Background. Access location background. Why did that take me to the wrong place? Interesting. Can I search for it? That'd be really helpful. Yes.
Oh, this might be relevant too from Andy here. I built my own for Android and iOS. Even if terminated, and Play Store's announced, even if using Foursquare, they will reject apps asking more than 3 times per hour. Wow, that's important to know.
Yeah. So you can see here, I don't know why that pops anyway. Access background location and 29 and is considered protection level dangerous, which basically means the user will be alerted, and it also means the Play Store will want. This is a hard restriction can be held by app into the. Basically, the Play Store will also request that you show a video of why you need the background permission and like proof of why it's important for your application. Like it isn't simple. Here we go. Look, evaluate whether you need background as critical. Don't need access to background. Remove it. If it high, you need this. When you remove all access all the time. Blah blah blah. But anyway, there's a bunch of stuff, and I'll post this link to location in the background here because I think that's kind of all relevant information to what you're looking at. But yeah, it's just don't do it. I mean, why? That's the thing, right? Like, always think about why would I need this?
And why do you want to burn my battery? Which is always the useful question there.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I mean,
I don't want apps doing this. Most of the time I say no to these apps. Do you want to be always, except for things like Foursquare check-ins. I want to make sure that I'm getting my Foursquare check-ins in. So meaningless points. So I do actually say, go ahead and run in the background and remind me when I get to a place that I'm the mirror of. Yes. Cool.
Again, it's not a problem actually having, you know, oh, sorry. It's not a question of you know using it in the background, but just like, you know, using it effectively and correctly in the background. If that makes sense. I just noticed here, this is another one I post, background location limits. To reduce power consumption, Android 8, 26 above limits how frequent apps can retrieve the current user's location. If the app is running in the background, under these conditions, you only receive a few times each hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you should probably tune down your application. Like, the point here is there are better ways of dealing with notification stuff, especially when it's in the background. But I'll put this in the chat. There you go. All right. Where were we? So I think, was that the last question in our queue?
There was. We just had the 2 questions from the relating to bottom sheet stuff.
All right. Should we have a play around some bottom sheet layouts? That sounds like some fun. And see how we can do certain behaviors.
As long as you're driving and I'm just giving color commentary, go ahead.
That sounds like a plan. I mean, all of this stuff is a pain.
Let's take this out here.
Right, let's see.
Okay.
So I'm just
Now
getting.
We have a clean slate that we can pick things on now.
Let's see. See if I can get things set up here enough so we can try this stuff out. Sorry, was not prepared as per usual. Right. All right. Let's. I'll do my. Has anyone got any questions about bottom sheets?
Just those 2. It was the one where he wanted to change the height dynamically, right? Oh.
Yeah, I was just seeing this, what Roberta said. And the question says, I draw polylines when the user moves. And since some users put the app in the background, causes straight lines. Tell them the answer then is when they come back, you can look at the time differential between your samples. And if your time differential is like considered a long period of time because it's in the background, you can pop up a little warning. Don't background the app if you want more accurate locations. Done. You've informed the user as to what they should be doing. That's the solution to that, around user experience and user behavior, not program yourself around it and consume the battery. Because the user won't know that you're using, you know, consuming their battery in the background, perhaps, right? I would just be concerned because even then, as you just saw, you may only get 3 location updates per hour in the background anyway. So why bother using it? I would suggest that you just tell the user if they're trying to background the app, you can actually, when they background the app, you can actually ask the user and say, okay, did you know you're currently tracking your location? If you do this, you're going to inaccurate location tracking, right? There's other ways of approaching that problem. Don't try and program yourself out a hole, right? Like think about other ways to solving that problem. This is the same with most app problems, right? It's like as a programmer, I think our first go. It's like what's that thing like every saw is a hammer or something? Was that the kind of idea that like a stonemason will always try and solve things by shaping rocks and breaking rocks, like whereas an electrician is always going to try and do things with like hardware person is going to try and build something, and then the software guy is always going to use.
There's someone with a hammer. Every problem looks like a nail.
That's the phrase. That's the phrase.
Yeah, that's the equation. Yes,
that's the one. Right. Yeah, but the point here being that, as a programmer, we seek to solve every kind of problem with every type of problem with a program, and when it comes to, it's quite more nuanced, especially when you're dealing with real people. So, all right. All right, let's see if I can just get up here a something test we can try. Bear with me. I'm going to run the first build locally, and then before I do the screen share, because it's just going to rinse my Gradle will just rinse my machine when it first starts up. All right. Right. Need that. What's that like? Waiting.
Yeah, that's doing that. Now we're going to owe royalties to the Griffin Corporation.
Is that Jeopardy?
Jeopardy, yeah, Jeopardy theme. And you could tell they had to write the music so that it was 30 seconds long, and they got it a little too short the first time because that's where it starts slowing down. Dun, dun, dun. And then that was still a little bit too short, so they went dong dong. So that's why they had those extra notes right at the end, is to make it exactly 30 seconds long. No? You don't think so? I thought it was a great explanation.
I haven't really watched Jeopardy. Is not really a thing over here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that they always used it for the 30-second timer is kind of fun.
We have
that on Countdown. Countdown has a 30-second.
I was going to say we have Countdown. Right. Countdown has its own little 30-second.
Parodied on IT Crowd, where the whole crowd goes whatever. It was great.
That was brilliant. Yeah. Oh yeah, great. Thanks, Mike.
Hey.
Got the DMs.
Yeah.
All right, I got your DM. This was the. Yeah, this was the Matt Carroll thing, right? I've got way too many. Hang on. I've got way too many. Yeah.
Problem with being popular.
All right, let's see what. All right, is it running? It's installing. It's running. This is good. Share. Let's see how far we can get with this. All right. Does everyone see my black screen?
I see a screen. You could probably make it a little bigger, I think, for the people at home.
Oh, yeah. That would be helpful.
Yep. Or assign magnifying glasses to everybody at home.
So I saw there was this new feature in here where I can be like, maybe not that.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe not that. Does that make anything better? Maybe. 125.
VS Code is just Command plus a couple of times. I don't know.
I think I could do that actually as well. Oh no, you can do that, but it only does the text editor. It doesn't do the entire UI.
Oh.
I know. Is that big enough?
Big enough for me, but I get a high resolution screen here that I'm looking at.
Well, tough luck if it's not. There you go. Right, moving on.
We need to move on. Yes.
All right, don't have all day. Right. Let's get rid of that banner. Give ourselves a background. I do not want a white background. This is where Mike goes, why are you using my package? My awesome theming package.
Hey, Mike, my code pad just got updated to include Flex Color Scheme yesterday. So now all my core Flutter apps that I'm building quickly all have Flex Color Scheme already embedded in them. So thank you, Mike.
Oh. Stupid. That's it. Why is that doing that? Right.
Those who don't know what I mean, I'll show a code pad here. Where's my code pad?
Do it. Right. We're doing some bottom sheet stuff, weren't we? Yeah, let's do that. All right. All right. So what we trying to achieve here? There was some things that came in. All right. Do you want me to use? Okay. I must apparently use Material 3 True. It's going to make the entire difference to this app that we're building. There you go. Oh, wow, it's a shade darker gray. Whoa. Sorry. Okay, right. Where's that thing? So the original question was, I need to change my bottom sheet height dynamically, and I would like to know the size of the content before changing the height. Okay, so let's try that. So first of all, we need this notion of a bottom sheet, and we need a little bit set up here, right? So we need this notion of what a bottom sheet is, how it comes on the screen, and then inside that bottom sheet, we want it to change its size and height and whatever else. So now a bottom sheet. Let me just be clear about this to everyone. That's all the people at home that are listening. A bottom sheet itself is just a widget. I know everything's a widget in Flutter, but it's just a widget, and it just so happens that you put it in a route and it animates on top. But at the end of the day, it's just a widget. So we're going to start off with the widget approach, and then we can go chuck it in a route later. Okay. All right. So if you can now think about it from the point of view of it's just a widget, how do we lay this out? Well, that becomes simple, right? So let's have a stack, and then inside the stack, we can actually do this with a positioned. Let's do it with a positioned, at least to begin with, and we want it to be on the left, and against the left edge, the right edge, and the bottom edge, right? And then we'll call this as animated bottom sheet. Yeah, that'll do. Right, and it's going to have children, and this will be each page, and we're going to have a container. No, actually, no, I'm joking. I just literally don't put containers in anything anymore. It just feels wrong to me. Right, let's do our animated bottom sheet. Right, so we'll have some children to go on our bottom sheet. Cool, that's going to be a piece of material and shape. Let's make it at least look a little bit materially. Elevation on it, about that, I don't know, color, should probably get that from the theme. Let's do that. I think that's the default anyway, but whatever. And then let's clip everything inside. That's fine. No, we don't want to hide. Let's go round edges. All right, and then inside our lovely shaped box, we'll have a column right now. And now this is just size box. Height, to give it a fixed height for our test, for our initial run through. And then we'll put a placeholder inside that. Okay, so that's enough to give us like a kind of bottom sheet. And we'll put our two pages, when we get to the show the pages, will be colored boxes, because that's amazing. And our first one's going to be 200. What color should we have the first one, Randall?
I always like the rainbow colors now. They're the what is it? There's some
What, the primaries?
not primaries. What's the accent colors? Accent colors makes a nice rainbow.
Oh, all right. Well, should we use teal accent for the first one?
Yep.
And then
I did a video on that. That was actually pretty cool, showing how to make rainbow colors for all of your placeholders.
And we'll go with what? Orange. Right.
Yep.
All right. So let's run it. 014. Okay, our heads are in the way. Let's make this smaller. Hopefully you can see that. So there's our rounded sheet. Not very helpful right now. So let's make our background black, just to.
Is it already black?
Now
that black. Oh,
now
black instead of gray. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like just so that we can kind of see that bottom sheet, right?
Yep.
All right. So now we have a widget at the bottom. Whoop-de-doo. So the point here was, at some point we want our content to change size for some reason, and in doing so, we want it to automatically change its height. Right. All right. So let's figure that out. So let's put wrap this with a page view. Children for the minute, which should work. Oh yeah, well, not stateful yet. All right. What do we now get? We now get an exception.
Ooh.
This.
You broke it. You broke it.
This is no. This is terrible. Right? Okay. So we're going to get a lovely thing about layout, because a page view actually needs to know its height. I'm going to make it horizontal. It should be okay. Scroll directional axis. Will that work? We're going to find out.
Chip it. Chip it.
No.
Ah! Layout.
Let's have a quick look here.
Shrink wrap.
Hang on. I'll do shrink wrap on.
Shrink wrap got suggested in the chat.
So there's actually no, there's no such thing. Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Shrink wrap would solve this in. So shrink wrap is about the axis of scroll. We're doing the cross axis, right? So we're scrolling horizontally whilst wanting to shrink on the other axis. which is and is not the same behavior. So let's think about this. We want the content to change its height, and we want to switch that content in. So to get away with the page view, of course, that wouldn't work. All right, let's see. This is why we're doing this, right? Let's do this first of all. So this will be really basic. Let's try it. Okay, so that's 400 high.
Box constraint.
Why do I not see? Oh, wait a minute. This is a row. They've got no width. So we kind of want, like, here's a question. Do we want to do a custom layout? Do we solve this with a custom layout? Because I mean, like, we've got these two panels next to each other, right? We've got 200 and 400, and we want the one that's currently active, or we kind of want a fractional height to be measured on the outside. This tells me this is perfect for a custom layout. I think this might be a really good option for this, and it simplifies it a hell of a lot. Right, okay. So we just have the widget report its height. Not forget intrinsic height. We just have a widget that reports a custom widget that reports its height based on how much of each of the two widgets it has. Right, and that's it. That's all you actually want. That is exactly the behavior that we're looking for. So rather than trying to fight the layout, like, let's just do one, right? Right, coming back to this, we want to say, what is the best way of doing this? Annoyingly, it is a multi-child layout. We did do a couple of these before. Do I have one I can just copy and paste from? Probably. I don't know. This is like a test project, so let's have a look. No, wasn't in this project. Wow. Unless it was in one of these. Hang on. Oh, look, case. I know it's going to say there should be one there. Multi-card layout. Custom multi-card layout. So the problem with the problem, first of all, we're using a custom, a standard custom multi-child layout. Is that a multi-child layout requires a fixed dimension on the outside. It cannot customize the return size for its parent, which means you have to go custom render object.
Now you're going to want boxy.
We could try and sell this to boxy, but I'm not.
Just kidding. Do it the hard way. It's fine. Go ahead.
You say do it the hard way. It's not that difficult. That's the whole thing there.
You say this now, and 20 minutes later, you'll be going, now, how do I get this over to there?
No, I fully agree that this is going to be simple. So
you agree with yourself.
We're going to find out. I may be entirely wrong. So what do we want to do this? Like partial height layout, partial... what would you call this? Partial height layout? I don't know, let's call it that.
Oh, naming is tough.
We can always change the name of it later, right?
Yeah.
All right.
True.
So this is great because we say we want. We're going to have a required super children, so that enables us to not do that.
Super children. Nice.
Super key. All right. What else do we need to know? We just need to know a. Should we have an animate? Should we just have a animation of double? Let's do this with a value to begin with, and we can look at like how we want to rebuild with animation, right? So this is like fraction. Right. And let's do a render. So this is the normal convention. Use the word render before your render objects. And We did do a previous show about this, so I don't remember which one it was. So go take a look. Hopefully you'll find it. That's really bad advice, but yeah, sorry, that's what you're going to get right now.
Maybe our resident indexer can tell us which one it is.
Yes. Christian's awesome. I met him at FlutterCon.
Cool.
And we didn't really have time to speak much, so I do. We should get him on the show for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. Welcome to join us anytime.
I know. Can he record the questions whilst being on the show? That's the question. Otherwise, I'm not sure we can have him on the show.
That'd be funny if he could answer the questions while we're on the show.
That would be helpful, right? Like just answer the questions for us. Wonderful.
We could just sit back and ask questions, and he could answer them, and then say, "Oh, I answered that at 7 minutes into the second hour." Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, render objects are stateful. In this case, we're passing down our fraction parameter into the render object during construction, which just means we store it in this unscored private variable here, and we have it's normal practice to have a getter and a setter for these things. So that way, when the fraction is updated, we tell it that this render object needs to be laid out and painted again. And then each child of in this case, a multi-child render object that has multiple children, there's these two mixins that provide a lot of the base functionality, so we don't have to do it. But you are required to define your own parent data. This is how parent data is what stores the position. So if I go into here, so this is a rendered box parent data. Box parent data has an offset. This is literally the position, well, touch here, the offset in which to paint the child in the parent's coordinate system. It's where that object is drawn inside the parent. This is what every widget must have if it relates to the box model. That is render box model. All right. So in this case, okay, so we're going to go through the children. We're going to get our children, and we're going to lay out each child. So let's do a for loop for final. Let's just do should we index it? Let's index it. So let's children length I plus. And this is what I was saying about earlier in the show, how simple a layout can be, right? I know I've done some boilerplate here, but I'll share this, by the way. All this will be shared in a gist at the end once we're done. All right, so this is now children. I layout, whatever constraints, parent user size, and we can have a. Do we want to get list of sizes? Do I care? This will just do for now. Default paint should go for the children and paint the children in their positions. Default head test, same. So we just need to position those children. So we do that by saying, let's get the child. Let's do it on each one. So basically, I'm making a row, right? A simple row. So what I want to do is to do a row, we need to know our starting X position, and then we get our child. I think this is a render box, but let's I think it already is a render box %. Unnecessary cast, good. Okay. And then we want to lay out that child. That is, ask the child how big it wants to be based on these constraints. These are just the same as the parent, right? And then what we want to do is position this child on the screen. So we do that by getting its parent data as our parent data type and setting the offset variable we were just looking at. That is literally how you position it. In this case, that would be X and Y is 0 always in this case. So X, actually, let's double that. Right. So now, the next time around, the next widget, if they're in line, then X needs to be incremented by the child's width. And that's what we do there. And the reason why we have parent user size is because it needs to make sure that size is set before it returns, so we can use it in our calculation. And then finally, our size is whatever the biggest size is that we were given. Strictly speaking, not correct. So what we actually want to do is get the tallest. So so we say max height here, set that at 0, and then we can down here go if child size height is greater than max height. max height equals child size height, right? And now finally, when we set our size, that is how big we want our layout to be. It's going to have a width of whatever the constraints came in. So that'd be constraints dot max width. And for the height, it'll be constraints dot constrain height.
What about you got max height there? Well, you said max width. Okay, you meant max height.
No, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
I'll fix it just a second. Oh my god,
You're way out there on the right side of the page.
Yeah, right. So this should be max width. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
you're right.
Cool.
So the general premises here is saying that we'll make sure the height, that the biggest height child is what we use as our height, and it has to be constrained by the bounds that we were given, which should already be the case, but always constrain your responses, otherwise you'll get errors in layouts.
So that's the same stuff that a row is doing for you. Isn't there any way to reuse some of the row technology directly in here?
I mean, why? It's like for what we need, it's super simple, right? Like we're just placing widgets next to each other based on their. This is also based on they're all being the same width. This is not exactly like a row. Obviously, we don't have weights and all that kind of stuff. We could reuse it, but again, for this is what I was getting to earlier. We just don't need to. Like, why overcomplicate it, right? This is not complicated. That's it. That's the entire code for the layout. So now we've done this. Let's go take this layout. Partial height layout, drop this in place of our row, get rid of our intrinsic height because we no longer need it. And this is going to want a fraction right now, which it's really fraction is maybe this should be like offset, fractional offset, child fractional offset. God, naming's hard. Yeah. But the best thing is to practice with these things, right? Let's do fractional offset. Let's use that instead. Let me just do some renaming here briefly, because although it is a fraction, it's not like, anyway, it doesn't matter. Right. Oops.
Oh, yeah. However, when Simon says, this is quite simple, really, I hope to get a grasp of it in the next 12 months.
All right, let's restart, see if I broke something. Oh, look, I didn't break something. That's great. What we've now got is the 200, right? So you notice here, this is the first box that we put as a child, which is the correct width. This is good. And the height is the correct height, it's 200, but the whole sheet is now the largest size, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is work out the fraction of the based on the fractional offset, work out how much of this child is on screen versus the next one, and then we can report that as our height. Okay, so let's go there. So first of all, we need to make sure based on our fractional offset, how much we want to lay them out and move them, because we actually want them to scroll, right? For want of a better word. Because currently let me be clear, if I was to zoom out, you would actually see the other orange box on the right here, right? That's where we positioned it, but it's off screen right now. So if I actually just do, say, minus 100 on our starting X position, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, yeah.
300. So I'm just moving them across, right? And that's essentially what we want to do. We're going to use our fractional offset to work out a fraction of the width that we want to scroll by.
So we're building a scrollable in a sense.
In a sense, but the point I'm trying to make here, right, is that if we're at this position, we should have 3/4 of the height of the first one and 1/4 of the height of the second one added together to make the final height. So the idea is, as soon as that second one comes completely on the screen, the box is now the full height of that second widget. Does that make sense? And if we do this right, it should mean we can have any number of size widgets, and you can just scroll through them, right? So we can easily take our like, again, programmatically go through because it's based off this one double number, or we can then have a wrap it in a there's actually a widget in the framework, so this becomes what's called a viewport, and then the widget that's in the framework is a scrollable, and then we can link the two things up and actually have it so it scrolls. We'll do that in a minute, right? So anyway, so the first thing here is the layout. That's the primary concern, like get the behavior we want from the layout. All right, so I was saying that we have the constraints coming in. We have a max width, right? That's what we have. And I guess we want to multiply that by our fractional offset. So it would be something. Yeah, that's correct. So this would actually be our starting X position. If I got my maths in the right frame of mind here, start X. I could be completely wrong here, so we're going to find out. So if I restart this, good, that's what I want to see. And now if we make our fractional height 0.5, that should be halfway, 0.5, that should be halfway through the very first widget. Okay, we need to negate it, right?
Yep.
So at the moment it's not negated, so that's fine. Let's do start minus start X. There you go. 0, that's where I want it to be. So beautiful. Now we change this to 7.5, save. There we go. Yeah. 1.0, save. Now what's really cool is let's add a third child in the mix and make that what? 100. What color do we want? Amber. No, let's do something a bit different. Let's go with purple. Right. Cool. So now I've done that. If I go down here and change this to 1.5, now we're halfway between that one and the next one, right? Cool. So now we've done this. Now we've got this fractional offset piece. How do we work out the height? So again, come back down here. We want to take a proportional amount of the height of what should be visible, right? So there's always going to be 1 or 2 visible at any one time because they're always max width. So we want to calculate I guess this whole idea of max height was just my way of quickly getting it in there. We don't really want to calculate max height. We want to calculate proportional height, right? Final height, I don't know, let's just call it height. And what we care about is I greater than or equal to fractional offset, right? And is I less than or equal to fractional offset sealed? That'd be correct. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Just +1, maybe? No.
No.
Okay.
So let's just so height plus equals. We want a fraction amount of this height here, but this fraction needs to be based on how much of this index overlaps with. This could be a nice way of doing this. My brain is not working.
You want a weighted average of the two numbers, the height of the one on the left and the height of the one on the right. Right? Am I right? Weighted average. If you're
hang on.
Right. Hopefully that was inspiring enough there.
No, I think so. If we take, so let's say this number is 1. Let's say it's 0.5. So it'd be 0.5 minus. No, we want the full amount.
I have a feeling you can do it with offset math too, but that's always fun.
Do we always want to start with 1? No.
I think it's going to be.
Let's.
Okay. When you're between 0 and 1, it's interpolating from the left height to the right height. Between 1 and 2, it's interpolating from the right height of that second one to the next height. So it's a linear scale between the two heights of the two adjacent blocks.
What we're going to do is we're going to say
I feel like offset math could do this too somehow.
Okay, that's the correct that is the correct height right there for this, right?
Okay.
And then if I go and probably split, actually, let's close all tabs. Don't do that. Let's split this. And then we can test by changing this value in here. So 0.5. Right, let's do 1.0.
Ooh, a double tween. It's got to be a tween.
I didn't hot reload. Okay, so that's correct. This is good. This is correct.
Okay.
Right. 0.5. Okay, so this is the thing, right? So no, but this is what I'm saying. So at the moment, this has added both their heights together, right? Because I've got a fraction of them. So I need to know what is the fractional amount I want for each. In this case, it'd be half. But it'll
change
for the one that's
yeah,
but this is my point.
You're tweening it. You got to figure out
minus the net. Do you maybe actually saying this? Maybe this is the wrong approach. Like we only ever want to do additions of up to 2, right? So is there a fractional amount remaining? Yes. Then we want to calculate that fractional. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Let me think about this a different way. So rather than summing the height, let's calculate the height for the and we can say if floor.
Oh, this is interesting. Couldn't you just lay out 2 of the children?
Yes, we could. We're not required to lay them all out. But equally, there's a ton of ways of doing this not optimally right now. But again, how many are we talking about? Are we talking about 100? No, right? So not really like apparent in what we're doing here. What you're actually talking about, though, when you start looking at those things, is why Builder and List View are so problematic when it comes to recycling views. Because how can we do a sum up of all of these things for an infinite series without laying them out? So there's compromises you have to make. Anyway, all right, where was I? This is just bear with me here. What? Oh, you floor to double. So what we're saying is if fractional offset, I really don't like. Let's do final.
I keep hearing linear interpolation in my head because it's like when you're going from 0 to 1.
This is it.
You're going from the height of 0 to the height of 1.
My brain's definitely not working today. I tell you. Right. It feels like I said it every week. Right. So, what we actually want to do, what I'm doing here is just doing. So first of all, we want to know what is based on the base one, the floored one. What is the amount? No, I want a fraction as offset minus base. All right. So now this is going to give us the current window on. I guess. So let's just think about this logically here, right? So if our offset value is equal to 2.5, right? Then the idea here is that base becomes 2, and fraction becomes 0.5, right? That's what I'm just looking at here. Is this the best approach? I have no idea. That's why I'm doing this. So the question then becomes, what? We're half the. Do we only care about the fraction? I guess so. 2 becomes the index. So base becomes the index into children, right? So what we're saying is, if if was children base, I guess we'll want an float integer then. So index, maybe it's a better term, right? So we say children index size width. So that's the first, and we want. Let's see, what amount of this one do we want? We want the 1 minus this. Okay, hang on. Let's put this at 7.5. So in case that this is 75, we're saying we want 25% of the bottom one and 75% of this one. That makes kind of sense. It makes sense to me. Or do we want the average? We'll come back to it in a second. I think we need to divide it by 2 and get the average, but anyway, whatever. Right, what was the same width? Yes. So first width is this, and then second width is obviously the next child, if we have that child available to us. So we may get to the end. So we want to say children if index plus 1 is less than children length, then we know we need to add to height. Right, add to our calculation of height. I don't know how to say width. I don't know width from height. So first of all, we can say height is always going to be a certain fraction amount of this by fraction, right? That's where we're at here. This is index. All right. So that's going to give us our 25, in this case, 75% of the first one, and then we want the reciprocal. I can't say it. Reciprocal. I can't say it now. So we want
proportional
up there. 1.0 minus fraction. And then
See,
we'll add
this
that.
is all what tween double does, by the way.
I was thinking about doing but I was thinking about doing that, but that's not exactly the calculation we need, I don't think. But let's
you keep saying that. I keep looking at the page for tween, and it looks like exactly what you're looking at.
Well, no, we can do we can do lerp, right? So we can do double dot. It's double dot lerp, isn't it? Yeah.
That's tween dot lerp. Oh, I don't know.
It's a global. It's double lerp like this. I'm pretty sure. Lerp double.
Oh yeah, ABT right there.
Right. So this is the sort of calculation we probably want. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the calculation that's doing the thing. Yeah.
Oh, hey mate. If we put but we may not have a secondary height. I guess we don't need to. Right. So we're hang on. We'll come back to the let's just see what we get to here if we do.
Okay.
So that is the expected number I wanted on the output. So that's good. So if the time I go to 7.5 and hit save, hot reload, sorry. Okay, that didn't get taller, did it? I should have got taller. Okay. So if I do 1.0, okay, index. Hang on. No, offset floor. It's a 0. Hang on. Let's just have a look. That is not correct. Because it'd be 100% the next one. Yeah, no, you're right. Okay. Let's just start this again. Right. I want to put the double lerp in here, right? And basically,
there's a lerp in there somewhere. Yes. Right.
Yeah. Let's lerp. So the amount we're lerping is actually the fraction.
Mm-hmm.
And we're lerping between this height, first height, second height. So let's
Yep.
let's do that in here. That kind of makes sense. So we'll say height 2, whatever, and height 1.
Yeah. There we go.
Right. And this is height 1.
You don't want the fraction there anymore.
So what we can say is if we have height 1, height 2, then we'll look between height 1 and height 2.
Yeah.
That becomes height, else height is just height 1. And
Is it
we
red?
can, this is a question that we were going to find out because why? Oh yeah.
Pull it in.
You can put nulls in here, in which case it looks like a null. Right. Okay. Okay, that is what I want to see. Okay, so that is. So now if I say 0.2.
Ooh, I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's the animation.
6, 7, 8.
Oh yeah.
9. And then 1.0. Now here's the next question is, will it get smaller now if I go to 1.2? Yeah.
That was it. Lerping.
Right.
Let's go lerping now. Everybody's learning now. Come on, a parley with me.
So 2. Cool. So this also is assuming that someone doesn't set a stupid number in here and break everything, because you can always do that in here. So let's set
clamp. Clamp it.
Yeah, I guess we can clamp this to hang on, if index is greater than 0. I mean, we could throw an assertion, right, as well.
Right.
It's less than length.
Let's go asserting
and then
now.
this one we'll just do a climb 0 to 2 inch, sure. I'm just naming variables here just to annoy people. There you go.
Yep.
Right. All right. So now we've got that. This is cool. Right. All right. So can we now make it so that you can swipe with your finger and get this effect? And then can we then take this one step further? And so we've got our layout. So can we have it so you swipe with your finger and then it will? Yeah, should do, right? Okay, let's do it.
You want it to be like a page view swipe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we should be able to. So we should be able to do it with the scrollable. Let's find out, because it's been a while. So for those that don't know, scrollable is the base for all scrollable widgets. I'm pretty sure we're going to need a controller in here. So we should be able to use we could use a page controller actually. Let's just put a normal scroll controller in for the moment. Okay, so we create a scroll control, we can dispose of it, and we need to pop that on our scrollable. It does say it can be nullable. axis direction. This is scroll direction or something, isn't it? Dot right. If I'm writing or something. Oh, that's not the right one. Axis direction, of course, it's axis direction, right. And physics. Now, this is the interesting one. We can have page scroll physics, which will give us the snapping.
Right.
And we'll put drag start behavior on down. This is just so that if you drag start behavior, you should not set specifically, just set to start if you have scrolling in both directions, right? Because it needs to disambiguate between the two. If you only ever have scrolling in one direction, then you can put down and it means it will instantly have feedback. If you don't put down, you start dragging, there'll be a little gap where it has to determine which direction you're dragging to know which scroll to start with. This is standard with all mobile apps. Not Flutter specific. That whole thing about scroll slop. Anyway, right. All right. So now we've done that. We now need to take our position, and this gives us our pixels. And we're also going to need to report back to the position our size. Apply view content dimensions and viewport dimension as well. And basically with these numbers, it can work out how much to scroll by and what to stop scrolling and all the rest of that kind of fun stuff. Our layout is just that, a layout right now. So we want to wrap this with a value listenable builder. So the whole idea of this is to listen to that scroll, listen to that position value, because it is actually a notifier, change notifier. And whenever its value changes, we want to relay out. So that's why we want to reconstruct this with a new fractional value. And so in this case, we're going to get a build context, then our value, which is a viewport offset. Oh, we don't, we can't use that. It's not, it's animated builder. Sorry, get it right in a second. It's just something to essentially say rebuild the layout when the animation changes. I think this has an optional child, doesn't it? Okay, so what else do we want to know about here? I guess to get our viewport dimension, we need to know how big our layout is. We could actually have these calculated and applied by our partial height layout as well. So we could, instead of passing, here's the thing, instead of passing fractional offset, we can now have this direct, hang on, that's a good question here. So if we, sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. We can actually have, brings out into, in a minute, we can make another widget which builds the two together. If instead of fractional offset, we put this as viewport offset, this is much better. Viewport, I like this more. Viewport offset, this makes more sense. Viewport offset. What does a viewport call this? I think it calls it something else. Hang on. So, by the way, those that don't know, you have viewport, which is what every scrolling widget uses. That's the base of list view and everything else. And as you saw, there's also you can see list view viewport, nested scroll view viewport. There's shrink wrapping viewport is the other one that you'll find. This one down here, shrink wrapping viewport. So when you say shrink wrap true on a list view, it will build one of these widgets under the hood, which there's your slivers. It just does what you expect, shrink wrapping it. And then viewport is, again, every other bit of scrolling content. Here's the slivers. This is what it does. And you pass over offset. Let's call it offset. All right. So that's what we're going to call ours. And we'll just call it offset. Viewport offset. Yeah, let's just do it. oops. So basically, to apply these, to have it listen and apply these changes, we can just do it at this level, which makes more sense overall. So we'll make this change like this. Bring it down. Again, more changes. Why not? This has, it's a viewport offset. So we'll have to change our naming below, but we'll get there in a second. Offset, offset. Value, if they're not the same. So this is where it gets slightly complicated, a little bit more complicated, only a little bit. So render object is attached and removed from the render tree. And we want to listen and unlisten from this viewport offset, the change notifier, when it gets attached and detached from the tree. So here in this case, we want to say offset.add listener. Let's have a little function here. We'll call it on offset changed. This is what to do when it changes. In this case, we want to mark means layout, mark means paint. Actually, I don't need layout to be honest. Paint. If the layout changes, the position of the widget's changed, then that will mark the paint. So on offset changed, and then when we detach, we want to make sure that we remove from that. Now here's the thing. If we change the offset during its running, we need to make sure that we remove from the old offset, then we update the value, and then we listen to the new one, right? But that's only if we are attached, right? Otherwise, there's nothing. I mean, removing something shouldn't make too much difference. So it's a little bit more complexity to how we do this, but this way, it's this render object that's actually listening directly to the offset when it changes. And then when we get attached, I think let's make sure that when we do layout, that we update these things. And I think we're done. We don't even need to animate builder then, because our widget listens to it directly. That sounds cool, right? Right. So that's all we end up here with scroll at the top. Now we're listening. It's going to lay out when that change happens. And then down here during our layout, we want to make sure that we're taking the current offset pixels and working out our fractional offset, which now has got the offset name. So we're going to need to fiddle around with this a little bit. So this is fractional. We'll put it back to fractional offset just so we can track it better. Fractional offset. Okay, so that. So we need to work out based on pixels, which is where we want to how much we scroll to. Yeah, so basically we just need to divide this by the width coming in, constraint to max width, right? And then the start is actually offset pixels. So negative offset pixels. This is our new fractional offset.
Yeah.
Right? And then after we're calculated all our children, so first of all, the viewport dimension that is in our axis of scroll is that constraints max width. That's, to be honest, this should be applied at the end. So let's do that at the end. So we go to the end, we get our size and our So we need to calculate width along the way. So let's put width in here. So this is the content width, right? How much we can scroll by. So as we go through x, x is actually being incremented by width. Strictly speaking, it's not the same. So let's just do this. We could tie this up. We could do something, but this makes more sense, right? So this would be the width of all the children next to each other, which is our minimum scroll is 0, our max scroll is the width, minus our viewport size, viewport width. Which is just the constraints, our constraint width coming in. Oops. Right, so just to be clear on what we're doing. All right, I think that's it. I'll restart, see what happens. Okay. Hey, look, I'm moving it.
Ooh, oh, that's so cool.
Okay, it's interesting. It
Does
works.
it have a?
It works on. It works on the last two. Whoops.
Whoa.
I did an edge swipe by mistake. I'm going to use my finger because it's harder to do with the mouse. Here. Restart. Let's get that. So, all right. So we do have a miscalculation here, but that's okay. Right. So on the first one, I said if height is greater than 0, not equal to. There we go. That should fix it. Right. So I restart it. I don't remember. Save restart to make sure. Okay, it did. All right. Here we go. Hey. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's
beautiful. Beautiful. Ship it. Ship it. All this to solve one question we got in an hour and a half.
No, but this is like, look at that. But this is what I'm trying to say. This is the kind of layout that we want built into the framework, I kind of feel, right? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like, give me paginated like height thing or something, whatever you would call it, right?
The application may be doing too much work.
Oh, that's fine. That's when the. So yeah, this is sweet. Oh, I really do like this now. Right. Do people like that? Are we
soon to be published as a package in the pub, right?
Right. So do we want to do a bit of tidying up on this?
We're kind of at, we're 2.5 hours in already.
All right. So let's yeah, but let me just okay. Let's just do something here. Hang on. So we know that see, fraction is now calculated, so we can be sure that this is never going to be this is also clamped, but we can clamp that to 0 on the low side. Do we need to do that? I don't think we need to do this. I'm getting rid of clamp. Index 1, I don't like it. Right, so height 1 is coming out of there. So if our index is in range of like the last one, so I can't scroll across. Good. Then it's going to lerp it. Otherwise, it's going to be the height of the first child because there's nothing to lerp. No. See, this is always sorry. It's on the last one. On the last one, it's reporting this height. Yeah. Okay. So that's index. And fraction is not needed to calculate unless.
How do you have double height without calling it nullable. Why aren't you getting an error there?
What? Where?
You have double height. How are you declaring that to be a double and not a nullable double?
Oh, because it's always set. It's guaranteed to always be set with the else condition.
Wow.
It's clever enough to know that.
Oh, that's clever. Okay.
I mean, if I do late, then that's actually a different thing entirely, right?
Okay.
But it knows it optimizes this out for you.
So before the first reference, it's always going to have a non-null value in it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I didn't realize the compiler was that smart. That's cool. Learn something every day. Learn something every time I'm watching Simon code.
All right, so okay, that reads a little bit nice. So it's the same thing, just nicing it up. And then this is final parent data. Parent data offset, just to get it a bit more legible. The width thing. So we start off with negative pixel offsets. So what we could actually do at the end of this, which X would be the total width, we could say X. Where's that width? Width here. Instead, we could do X plus offset, which ends up being the same value, and then that saves us from having to calculate an extra. Whether or not that's more readable, I don't know. All right, so let's just do a little bit of comment on this just to make sure it's it's obvious. So determine which page of content we are within. Layout all children from left to right. As another thing, we don't do RTL in here in this layout, but we could do that as well. Layout all children from left to right, and position them based on the current scroll offset. Talking about this, actually saying, I was actually just thinking, like, we have to relay at the moment. We have to relay out because we've got the height change. We could actually keep all the children laid out as from 0, and then in Paint we could actually tell it to paint based on that on the increasing offset. So actually we can actually put we've called it underscore offset plus underscore offset dot pixels in here. So this is another way of doing the same thing, right? So we're basically saying draw everything off by a certain amount, right? This would be negative actually, but that's the same as saying paint everything starting off the screen, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's more efficient or anything else. It's just another way of approaching it. At the moment, because we're in control of the layout, this just goes ahead and paints everything, right? Even the stuff that's not on the screen, right? And we're expecting it to be clipped by the framework. But we can make optimizations saying don't even try and paint this widget if it's not within the bounds of the parent, right? Like things like that. We can make that.
That's what something like a list view does by default, right? Things that are off screen don't get painted.
No, it's not just not even painted; don't even exist it actually attaches and reattaches different render objects to really optimize things. I mean, that's going to the nth degree though, because for this type of layout, we don't need that, right? But I mean, that's obviously a further optimization that can be made, right? And what else do we want to do here? And then say calculate the height of the layout based on what amount based on what amount of each child page is visible. Report layout size to framework. import content dimensions to parent to scroll. Okay, still a theme here. Paint all children in their expected positions. Hit test all children. Right, I guess that's kind of we could take that out, put that in here instead. Let's just comment in here. I guess let's just put this. Listen to scroll position when changed. Update out loud. Yeah. Only listen to scroll position when this layout is attached to the tree. Stop listening when we are detached. And finally, when updating the offset, we might already be attached and listening. Stop listening to the old offset and listen to the new one instead.
I'll be right back. I'm just gonna something at the door right now. I'll be right back.
Go. All right. So, okay, we got this far. Is anyone still here? We still got some people interested in this. Let's get some content behind here and make it into a proper bottom sheet, I think. Let's do a list view. Cool. Builder. Oops. Oh, I'm going to do that. Undo. Why are you not altered? There we go. Return list item. This is just something to fill up the screen as a filler. Why is this red? Because const. Yes. Why did my brain? Are you back?
Yeah. Nothing important. Just people at my door.
List tile. That's what I'm looking for. Right. I said list item. Idiot. Yeah. Right. Text item index. So I'm just putting some content behind.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Just something that we can kind of see differentiate then. Okay. So there's some scrolling content behind, and then we have this panel in front.
Oh, that's great. That's so pretty.
It's a shame that obviously like the color blocks is something you wouldn't see normally, right? So this blackness that you see is not actually a problem. we could have them. I feel like should we like have a alignment on this? So that what I mean by that is as I scroll, that blue sheet could be aligned to the bottom or to the center.
But
I mean, I don't see why not, but
where do you have it when it's? Oh, so you used to have a line center as you're scrolling?
Yeah, I mean, like we do something like this, like a line. Yeah, so if we do like alignment, say do something like this, right? This is what's it called, a line geometry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just trying to remember if we can actually calculate without. Yeah, so resolve with the text direction. Let's not do that. Let's just do an alignment, just to make things simple right now. So if I was to put an alignment in here, make it optional and just say alignment. Top center. Okay. We also could have like, I mean, there's other things here like start page, right? So at the moment we create our own controller. You could pass in a controller. Also, this could be a page controller. It's the same thing. So if I do something like this, then we can have.
So Jervis says, "Thank you very much for all this. Quite complicated stuff for sure. And I'll use it on my client project and tweak it a bit." So you're already writing his code that he needs to do for his project.
That's fine. I actually need this for one of my projects as well. It's something I've been meaning to do. So.
Oh, great, cool.
This isn't right. So initial page is what I want. We don't. Yes, let's put in here. What's initial? So doubles. Oh, it's in. Oh, okay. Well, I guess so. All right, that should also work. And then what was I putting in? I was putting alignment, wasn't I? Yeah. All right, so now we've got alignment. We should pass that over. All right, so let's pass it in. So this is just all the sort of boilerplate things you need to do when you're doing at this low level, right? Like to conform to the requirements of the render box model. We could actually do something if it's equal to the same. Then there's nothing to be done to return, right? And simplify this slightly, maybe take that out. That's called like a guard statement, for those that don't know. So the idea is that if you don't need to run it into the function, you can guard against it, right? So now we want to say if alignment equals value and then mark needs layout. Okay. Now, if we go down to our actual layout function, we set the, there it goes, remember, but we set the Y offset to 0 here always. And what we actually need to now do is once we've calculated the maximum, the actual height at which we want to do, which is this one here, we want to position the widgets in that. So now we do a final pass over the widgets. In this case, the render objects for the widgets should be more simple what I say there. But, and then we take the current offset X position. We can actually do for child. So it's like the final child. We need to know the offset. So now this will give us, we need to now calculate the dy. And the dy is going to be based on alignment. So align within along size, along offset. I don't know which one it is. I mean, it's just a multiplier, but yeah. So if we do 0 on the width, height is height. It should give us the correct.
Yep.
It gives us an offset, yeah. So this is aligned. So this will be aligned. All right, so restart after all that. Oh, maybe not.
Alignment should be initialized.
All right, restart. Try again.
No, it's working.
No, we got a different error now. Let's continue.
It's making progress.
Is it? Is it really?
Anytime you have a different error, it's progress.
Oh, I know what's going on here. It's actually with the stack, which is no wait. That's it. All right, that's. Is this just still going? Null check for null operator. Ah, okay. Well, that'll definitely be a problem, won't it?
Yeah.
Has pixels. Okay, so we're interested. Oh, because of page. Okay, yeah. So this is because the first pass of what we do to calculate it's because we've got initial page now with page controller rather than scroll controller. All we need to do is in here where we access, where is it? We access pixels. We just say, does offset have pixels? Then we use it. Otherwise, we give it a default value, in this case of 0, right? And we can do the same thing. We need to do same thing here. So it's if offset has pixels, then we'll use negative that, otherwise 0. All right, let's try it again. There we go. All right.
Showing a different item though, isn't it? No, maybe not. That was a green one first. Okay. Oh, look at that.
My position is definitely wrong. Oh, no, it is. But I tell you what's the problem here is we're aligning not on the child's size, we're just aligning along an axis. We actually didn't say align within rectangles, actually what we want to do.
Yeah, I was thinking you want that.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't really care about either right now. So what I actually want to do, I'm just going to make things simple because I don't care. This is making it more complicated than it needs to be. this is actually what we want, which is okay, y. I think. I mean, which are the values for y? It's -1 to 1.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, because it's 0 to 1. So we need to times it by 0.5. Sounds about right.
That's when you map it to a, was it directional offset or something?
There you go. All right, there you go. That's so then now we have the same behavior. Okay.
Okay.
And then if I now go up, where's my alignment specified? Up here, and say, oh no, it's not. It's not simple, is it? No. See, I did it wrong. I'm crazy.
Mistakes, Simon. You're making mistakes in public.
Oh, how dare I?
Yeah.
How dare I program things?
How dare you program things in a fishbowl?
I know, right?
Yes.
I don't really need to align it within the x-axis, and this is what I was saying about the y-axis being.
Yeah.
Y times. Okay, y times half height. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So if I say, but hey, that's what I was working on before, wasn't it? Y times half the height. What? Times 0. Am I? That makes no difference. Oh, hang a minute. No, still not. It's still not clicking. Hang on. 4 children get the child, get the offset, align the Y based on that. That's correct, but it's not showing it's correct. Okay, let's do this. Let's change alignment to 1. So if I was 1.0, then that would be the bottom, right? So that's not right. Because on this page, it should be filling the height. And you can see that I really don't have a... I should probably change the background color of this panel so we can see it. That would be more helpful, wouldn't it? Scaffold color? I know, is that different? No, because it's material 3. Card color. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm getting rid of material 3.
Yep.
It wants me to use color scheme or something else. There we go. That's better. Right. So, yeah. It's interesting that they're all being positioned in the same place, which is always 50% there, which obviously I should have done this alignment thing, but I need to need to fix it. So if this is 0, this should get us back to where we were, right? Yes. Okay. Cool. And then, oh yeah, because it's half the child height. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm a complete and utter moron.
Really?
Yeah. Of course it's not going to work. I need, alignment. So when it said within rect, you look, you're taking half the height outside. Surely this should be taken into account half the child height as well. Center along size of other. The center of other plus inscribe. That's the one I'm missing. Returns the rect of a given size aligned with the rect of the specified alignment. So when it comes to, say, top, half height delta, that's what we're missing, right? So we want to make a half height delta. So if I specify the one axis I don't care about, so yeah, this will work. Okay, sorry. So align, inscribe. Let's do this. So the rectangle that we're aligning within and the size of the child. So in this case, it's child.size, and then the rectangle we're aligning within is going to be, say, page rect. Is going to be a rectangle from left top with the height. This is not directly correct, but this is fine for what we're doing here. So it's only we can only care about the height variable. Width can be what do we call it? Viewport width. There we go. All right. So now we have the page rect. Pop that in there. Inscribes given out aligned size, aligned rectangle, and then we want the top. Okay. Does it work? Hey, look.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, man. That is so
It makes
weird.
the world of difference. It makes us. It makes the world of difference. But now, now if we do things like align bottom, right?
Oh, yeah. Good luck on that working. Oh,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Ship it. Ship it. Oh, my God. Look at that.
Yeah. Oh, I fucked it now. Right.
You got carried away.
All right.
Scrolling.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And then align
So I
top
think-
should give you the original behavior too, right?
Yeah. Let's let me just put placeholders in here just so we've got like.
Oh man, that is cool.
I think that was quite fun actually. Like this is where it's at. Custom layouts. I'm telling you people.
I could have done that with Boxy in a half hour.
Go on then. Go on then. We'll wait half hour. You go ahead.
Well, maybe not me. Maybe Pixel Toast can do that in a half hour.
So let's do. Oh, there's another thing here right at the moment. So obviously we're talking about this being a bottom sheet. It's really just a widget on top, but it's same difference. Let's do top center. And do I have a top center default? I do. Let's restart. So here's a question. Here is. There you go. And yeah, that works.
Wow.
And then let's do. Actually, let's get rid of that now, and then do what's it, initial page. So if I put an initial page of, let's do 2. Okay, 1.
Nice.
Okay,
Oop.
yeah. So the initial. This is the thing. We tell it to lay out even when we don't have a position. We could tell it not to paint until we actually have a declared position. Yeah. So that delay is something we can actually work on. To be honest, I don't really care that much right now.
Cool. Yeah. Ship it.
Right. I think that's it. I think that's it, right? Let's grab our little.
We've got approval from the original client here.
Oh, we have. Okay, and so that's to release the source code. We need £500, please. Thanks.
How many Bitcoin?
How many Bitcoin? Right? Yeah.
All of them. Everything you
All
got.
of them. Every Bitcoin ever. All right. So the original question was, how can we change the height dynamically on the content of the sheet? We've shown you how you do that. That's great. And there was about making a bottom sheet that is scrollable, that when it really reaches the top, it does not over scroll and starts to dismiss and drag. Again, you can do the very similar things. Maybe that's something Mike he had to leave, but when he comes back next week, hopefully he comes back, maybe we can do that then.
Oh, you could get paid. You could get paid. Where is it? Here.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Let me pop this up on a gist.
Mm-hmm.
Switch back.
Joining the ranks of all those wonderful gists that you've generated over the years.
Exactly. What are we calling this? We're calling this a, what was it? Partial. What was it called?
Animated bottom
Partial
sheet.
height. Partial animated bottom partial height sheet.
Just the sheet.
Right.
It's got the sheet.
I need to call it something. All right, so we're calling this animated partial height layout sheet. Animated partial height layout sheet. Partial height sheet. Yeah, that's it.
Naming is hard.
Animate. It is. It's
Always is. Yeah.
sheet. Humpday Q&A. Oops. Humpday Q&A. What's today's date? First
Yep. November 1.
2023.
Yes.
And then I'll put a link to the YouTube video and people can go watch it if they want to. There you go.
Yeah.
How do I save? Okay, and the gist is
Yay.
there you go.
Yep, we got that. We got the chat here. Yes.
There you
Awesome.
go. So it's on screen and it's in the chat for those that are coming back later.
Right.
Hopefully that was fun. I'd had some fun. That was really interesting.
I learned at least a half a dozen things just watching that, so that's good.
Good.
You know,
not a bad thing. I might have to do some tweets around that. I think people might be interested.
Cool.
Right.
Well, let's see. Let me do the math. It's going to be 165 hours from now that we're back.
Is that including the difference?
That includes the final offset.
Yay.
That includes the fact that next week it'll be an hour later for everybody in the normal hemispheres times. Unlike this week where it was halfway between the US and the UK. This next time it'll be like UK time because US time and UK time will be aligned again.
We'll work out next week. Around the same time next week.
Around the same time next week.
Plus minus 1 hour. Right.
All right.
See you later.
Great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.